the legendary Hollywood director. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Saw Premiere, Subscription Recommendation. Today is the premiere day of the movie. James Wan combed his hair in front of the mirror and fixed it with mousse. He was satisfied when he saw himself in a suit and tie, looking very formal. The first movie in life should be released with a sense of ceremony. After a while, Rainava came. He was wearing the same black suit and tie. After going out, the two got in the car and went to the China National Theatre in advance. There was still some time before the release, and there were not many people in the huge ticket hall. The poster bulletin board was replaced with the movie poster of Saw early. In the small space, a broken calf was placed naked on the tiled floor. "Look, our names." Rainava suddenly pointed at the poster and said, "The distribution and proportion of the names of the directors and producers on this poster are quite sophisticated. Almost at first glance, the first thing you can notice is the name of the main creative team besides the picture. It is also a rare one that does not focus on actors as the publicity, but focuses on directors, producers, and supervisors." James Wan was also very excited, but he was not too out of control. Looking at the huge poster in front of him, he said with some emotion, "Lei, I still feel like I'm dreaming. Our movie is actually being released." Rainava nodded in agreement. At the beginning, who could have thought it would be so smooth and so generous? Not to mention that the production budget of up to 10 million was something they had never thought of. In the past week alone, not only have many media newspapers helped to promote it, but the theater chain has also been very generous in allowing the poster to be pushed. It has gained some fame before it is released, which is already very satisfying. Let's go in first. Yes. James Wan and Rainava had already got the movie tickets and walked directly into the second screening room of the theater. The China Grand Theater is one of the most famous theaters around Hollywood. It is often used to hold movie premieres. Any screening room inside has more than 1,400 seats, which is very convenient. Logically speaking, a premiere must not only watch the movie, but also have a pre-screening interview session. The host was the theater manager himself. By the way, it seems that this guy was also the host when Fury premiered last time. However, Lyman couldn't remember clearly. "Everyone, please be quiet for a moment. Let's invite the film's creative team to talk to you." The group stood up from the front row and walked to the open space in front. The microphone was handed to the director. "I'm James Wan. Thank you very much for your support for our film." Well, that's it. He was still a little nervous and couldn't let go. Then it was Lyman. He didn't have much to say, just a little mention of James Wan's filming ability. By the way, the premiere of Saw was quite lively. Lyman only mentioned this to Kevin Howe of CAA, but he didn't expect that he would be so supportive. Tom Hanks, David Letterman, Julia Roberts, and Brad Pitt. "I'm sorry about what happened last time. I hope there will be opportunities for us to work together again." Director Lyman. When Pitt saw Lyman, he ran over to say hello enthusiastically. Lyman was still a little confused. He almost forgot that Pitt had refused to participate in Fury with an extremely tough attitude. When he said this, Lyman remembered it again. Well, he said a few hypocritical polite words to him, and it was over. He would definitely not work with such a person again. Don't ask. Asking is narrow-minded. Then, Tom Cruise, Nicolas Cage and Heath Ledger also came to say hello. They were specially notified by Lyman, and they were considered relatives and friends. Nicolas Cage had a proud year. First Bad Guys emerged as a dark horse, and his reputation and achievements blossomed, earning him enough fame. Not to mention the generous salary and box office bonus. If the movie exceeds expectations, the producer will often give a big red envelope to the main creator, which is considered to be a favor. His own actor's value is also snapping. Just like the agent said, just because you are the leading actor in these movies and they all have good box office, then you should raise it. Besides, Cage has transformed from a niche art circle to a mass commercial circle. He has won many awards and has no shortage of qualifications. This is good. The market performance is good. Buena Vista Pictures, a film label under Disney, including Touchstone, ABC TV, and Hollywood Films, fully owned but independently operated, wants to invite him to be the leading actor in the new film project National Treasure. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer, Hollywood's gold medal producer, Pirates of the Caribbean series, Black Hawk Down, The Rock and other masterpieces are all led by him, including cooperation with Michael Bay, making him a commercial director, personally negotiated with him. Although the contract has not been formally signed, it is almost certain. His basic salary has risen to $15 million, and he asked for a 10% dividend on the North American box office, which was also accepted. Although there are still many actors in Hollywood who can get this price, it is a pleasant surprise to be able to reach this point, isn't it? So, he is very grateful to Lyman. Although he doesn't say it, a real man should prove it with his actions. For example, at this premiere, even if it was not a movie directed by Lyman, as long as he called, they would rush to it immediately. Yes, I know director James Wan. I'm here to show my support. Of course, he is a very good director. After casually answering a few questions from reporters, Cage found Lyman, chatted for a while, and sat down. Tom Cruise happened to be next to him. They had a relationship when they worked together on Bad Guys. He knew that this guy had a scandal recently and was in a relationship with a certain actor. Cage also gossiped a little, but Tom Cruise would not admit it. Because in his opinion, playmates and so on, isn't that a normal thing? There is no need to publicize it. The two looked in the direction of the voice, and the main creators on the stage had already accepted the interview with the host and returned to their seats. According to the fixed process, the host made a summary of 2 sentences. It was about the establishment and shooting of the film project and the director James Wan. After the long talk, the lights went out one by one in the expectation of the audience and fans. The theater gradually darkened, and the surroundings began to become quiet. No matter what, the movie finally had to be tested by the market. Success or failure, in the rather anxious look of James Wan, the curtain opened, the screen lit up, and the movie officially began. Chapter 227 Explosion JPG. Please subscribe and recommend. The blue butterfly in the opening credits of Man Studios is still as charming as ever, fluttering its wings and slowly quieting down the originally chaotic theater. As soon as this iconic opening animation appeared, Lyman couldn't help but smile. He was just happy. The screen flashed, and the movie began. Swish. The sudden flash of light cut through the darkness and illuminated this slightly dim space. In the small study, there were curtains, full shelves of books, and scattered things on the desk. If you listen carefully, you will find that an inexplicable and strange sound was heard, followed by the sound of a heavy object falling to the floor. Swish. The screen became dark again. The only mobile phone screen that was still shining on the floor reflected the title of the movie, Saw. The black, slightly blood-stained font was reflected on the screen, and even the flashing subtitles had a cold atmosphere, which instantly attracted the fans watching below. This scene. It's a bit of a trick. The main film hasn't started yet, but the prologue alone has created an unusual and mysterious atmosphere. Several film critics who were invited to come and show support and promote the film and received red envelopes also became curious. This film seems to be interesting. As a horror film, it does not seem to have an alternative setting like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Dawn of the Dead. Instead, it focuses on the creation of atmosphere. Large dark shots and inexplicable background music can also be seen. In other words, in the previous life, Saw became a classic horror film regarded by countless people because of this weird film style. Even if there are many flaws in it, and the actors' performances are not very good, it still cannot cover up the charm of this film, the unique directing style of James Wan. It is hard to imagine that this is just the debut work of a film rookie, but this is exactly what movies are. It is always full of miracles. It comes from the imagination and aesthetics of filmmakers, and is a dream world. And now, with sufficient production funds and production time, James Wan can freely display his talent for horror. The logic of the well-filled script will also become a major advantage of this film. I didn't expect him to be this kind of person. Nicolas Cage poked Tom Cruise next to him curiously. I didn't realize it when we were on the set. He was so shy and worked so hard. Was he the assistant director at that time? that wasn't his creation. But Tom Cruise also replied seriously, I really didn't realize he would be someone who likes horror themes. He looks quite gentle. This is the first time these two people know what kind of film James Wan shoots. It's inevitable that they will be a little surprised. What's more, his performance is so different from that in Bad Guys. The movie is still going on. Tick. Tick tock. It's the sound of water dripping. The scene changes, and on the slightly dark screen, a pale face with eyes closed is covered in water. Suddenly, the sound of water flow intensifies. Accompanied by coughing and retching, a man struggled to get up, groping with his hands, and shouted in panic, "Help, where am I? Is there anyone?" There was no answer, which made Jason Statham more panicked, his eyes full of fear. He hunched over, breathing heavily, and just as his right leg was about to exert force, there was a sound of chains rubbing against the ground. Where is this? Is there anyone? Help me. The man's spirit was almost collapsed. Hey, are you trapped here too? Suddenly, a clear voice came from the opposite side. The man seemed to have grabbed a straw, and in the darkness, he kept seeking help. But helplessly, the man also said that his ankle was handcuffed. This was still so desperate. Who are you, and how did you get here? The man continued to ask. My name is Adam, and I don't know why I ended up in this hellhole. Hello, Adam. My name is Lawrence, and I'm a doctor. I remember when I was at home, there was a sudden power outage, and I went out to repair the switch, and then I ended up here inexplicably. Do you still remember what happened before? Adam was about to say something. The incandescent light above his head flickered continuously, crackling, and the surroundings were illuminated in darkness and light. Finally, the light was frozen again. At this time, the camera slowly moved forward with the light, capturing the final indoor panoramic view, the slightly worn-out white-tiled bathroom. The ceiling was still a little peeling. At the rusty water pipe with green moss, a man had a shackle hanging by his ankle, firmly fixed on the water pipe. It was Lawrence who spoke earlier. The spider web in the corner also seemed to be telling the desolation and dilapidation of this scene. Under the panoramic lens, the audience can clearly see the surrounding environment. Hugo Weaving looked at the opposite corner. Jason Statham was locked in a mess beside the toilet. The water stains on his shirt and the sweat on his forehead were the result of his struggle. The light was shining, but his eyes were alert. The space between the two people became blurred as the camera moved forward again. In a dark red pool of blood, a bald man in a leather jacket could be vaguely seen lying there, holding a revolver in one hand and a recorder in the other. It looked like he had been dead for a long time, and his blood had turned black and coagulated. The strong smell of blood could be felt through the screen. Some viewers had already begun to feel uneasy secretly, but more of them were curious and more focused. Yes, for those who like to watch cult movies, they are not used to the lack of large-scale shots. Maybe they are still wondering why there is no close-up shot of the wound on the corpse. It's a pity that this movie is destined not to be a boring and bloody work that shows off the scale. In the movie, the two protagonists showed completely different expressions and movements towards the dead body. Jason Statham turned his head away hastily and retched again. Hugo Weaving dragged his shackles and moved closer with a heavy face, wanting to see clearly. After analyzing the cause of death a little, the two began to discuss how they got here and how to get out. In the mutual probing, the suspenseful atmosphere was mixed with a strong camera style. A doctor and a person who often concealed things kept saying lines to introduce the audience to the plot. It's really interesting. It's so exciting. Especially those audiences who love this kind of subject matter. They are thinking about how the story will unfold. Who is the driving force behind all this? Who killed the deceased? How can the two escape? Such a movie that suits your appetite makes people reluctant to miss any shot. Chapter 228 Reasoning. Subscription recommendation. Below, Jason Statham, Hugo Weaving and other actors were also watching the movie with great interest. Although they had a script, it was still hard to imagine the finished film after editing. On the screen, after the initial panic, the two trapped people gradually calmed down. Lawrence analyzed, since the people who caught them did not kill them, they must have another purpose. Suddenly, his eyes were attracted by a clock on the wall. The clock was too new and out of tune with everything around. He expressed doubts, but Adam ignored him. Lawrence muttered, "Obviously, someone wants us to know the exact time. This must have some meaning, otherwise it would be impossible to install a new clock here." He had some ideas and looked for new clues everywhere. The camera locked on the clock again, and the seconds kept turning. The logic of time added a bit of tension to the film. The rhythm was handled one by one. At this time, Adam found a mysterious envelope in his pocket, which contained a tape with the words "play it out" written on the back. After he told Lawrence also found the same thing in his pocket, except that in addition to the tape, there was also a bullet and a key. Lawrence was ecstatic and thought he was saved. After trying, he found that the key could not open the shackles, whether it was his or Adam's. The two were a little disappointed, but in order to get more clues, they still tried to get the recorder from the body. Adam put the tape in, and a hoarse voice came from it. Adam was sure that he had never heard this voice before. "It's time to get up, Adam. You may be wondering where this is. Let me tell you, this may be your burial place. In the past, you have been hiding in the dark and peeping into other people's lives. Do you like this voyeuristic feeling? So today you have to watch yourself die, or try to stop it all." At this point, Adam's identity was finally pointed out. He was a paparazzi and private detective who had been concealed from Lawrence. Lawrence was somewhat tempted. For some reason, this reminded him of the news that had been pushed on TV in recent months, saying that there was a perverted murderer who liked to torture people to death and had committed several crimes, but the police had not yet caught him. As Lawrence recalled, the montage shot cut in. The conditions of several dead people were exposed on the big screen. In the hole, surrounded by barbed wire, a fat white man was hanging limply on it, like a grilled fish pierced with iron skewers, bloody and mangled. As for the various tortures of death such as hanging, breaking the jaw, and electric chair, many people who were watching the movie were horrified. Although it was perverted, it was too perverted. Some timid viewers could not help but cover their eyes and look forward to this past. The film critics could not help but sit up straight in their chairs, wondering how these killing mechanisms were designed. Lawrence became more and more flustered the more he thought about it, but he had a high emotional intelligence and did not mention anything. Instead, he tried to cheer them up and said that they would work together to escape. Then, due to Adam's inherent suspicion, Lawrence's videotape was also given to him to play. But the tape revealed a fact that neither of them could bear. If Lawrence wanted to survive, he had to kill Adam before 6 o'clock tonight. Otherwise, Lawrence and his wife and daughter would go to see God together. This hoarse voice was simply a devil. He knew that Lawrence was a doctor who cured and saved lives, so he gave such a choice. Lawrence forced himself to calm down. He looked at the suspicion in Adam's eyes and kept explaining that this was the man's trick and alienation. No one knew what Adam was thinking, but they did unite again. The two looked for clues, and as Adam followed the prompts from the recording, they opened the heart-shaped symbol drawn on the toilet lid. From a black plastic bag, 2 hand saws with a metallic luster were taken out, but the shackles were too strong, or the pervert didn't intend to let them get away so easily, and the hand saws seemed to be useless. Time passed slowly. Although the first half an hour of the play created an atmosphere full of suspense and mystery, the single bathroom scene will inevitably make people feel bored after a long time. However, just when the audience's patience was about to run out, the branch line of Lawrence's personal life and the assistant in the hospital watching Lawrence chatting with the nurse he liked immediately made the atmosphere in the theater lively again. There is no need for too many shots to explain. The assistant's resentful eyes seemed to let people know too much. Then Adam was instructed by a mysterious person to investigate the Dr. Lawrence's cheating and asked to collect evidence. This is also the reason why Adam kept it secret at the beginning. He had met Lawrence. When these clues were connected, the audience's interest in watching the movie was aroused. However, several film critics began to feel bored. The plot behind can be guessed. It's nothing more than the assistant imitating the crime, or he is simply the pervert who wants to kill Lawrence. As for Adam, he is probably the unlucky guy who was caught and caught together. The following plot also seems to confirm this conclusion. On the night when she was captured, Lawrence's daughter was lying in bed holding a teddy bear. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps on the floor in the dark room. The daughter was awakened and was curious about where the sound came from, but the sound suddenly stopped. She shouted loudly, and Lawrence and his wife were startled. When they came to her daughter's room, she said that someone had just been in her room. Lawrence turned on the light in the room, but there was no trace. He suspected that his daughter had a nightmare, and comforted her kindly. At this time, the phone rang. There was a patient in the hospital who urgently needed surgery, and the hospital asked Lawrence to come over. Just as he was about to leave, his daughter said, "You won't leave us, right?" Lawrence laughed and said, "Of course, I'll be back soon." What no one knew was that after he left, his assistant came out of the cubicle outside the corridor, which was the toilet next to his daughter's bedroom, and kidnapped the two. Later, after Lawrence finished the operation, he returned home, but found that the light at the door could not be turned on. In the darkness, some strange sounds rang, and he turned on the flashlight of his mobile phone. He didn't find anything around him, and thought that the power outage was because the main power switch had tripped. Then he took his mobile phone out to check it out, and then these dark shots were very impressive, which is also the mirror portrayal that James Wan is best at. Looking at the movies he directed, except for mainstream commercial films, most of them have similar dark scenes. Darkness is the fear hidden in people's hearts. What James Wan likes to do most is to amplify this inner fear, and he does a good job, which is very eye-catching. Many professional film critics have said that the core of horror movies must come from the unknown, and darkness is inherently unknown. This ubiquitous sense of mystery is even more fatally tempting to the audience. What's more, the audience who likes to watch cult movies can also accept this style. At least, at this moment, countless audiences and film critics in the theater widened their eyes and couldn't bear to miss a shot. This movie is full of metaphors, and the picture is naturally accompanied by an inexplicable magic. If you can immerse yourself in it, you can naturally feel the charm of that kind of movie. Chapter 229 End. Subscription recommendation. The light and shadow changes in this movie are very clever, and they set off and contrast the atmosphere. The low and mysterious drum beats from time to time are more like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue in secret, looking around wantonly. As the plot progresses, clues are presented to the audience bit by bit. Various montage techniques are interspersed in it like embellishments, maintaining the rhythm of the whole movie. The shots and pictures continue to impact the audience's hearts. On the screen, when Hugo Weaving heard the cries for help from his wife and daughter on the phone, he finally collapsed after being tense. His eyes were fixed on the handsaw on the ground, and a touch of cruelty slowly emerged in the hollow. No, 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 no. There is still a chance. Don't do this. Jason Statham seemed to understand something, howling to stop Hugo Weaving's actions. All the audiences were also shocked. Hooah. Woo. Hugo Weaving let out a suppressed cry, but his hands kept moving. The handsaw pulled back and forth towards his ankle. The creaking sound of sawing bones was so crisp, but it made people tremble all over. The close-up of the face and the medium shot switched back and forth. The subtle display of Hugo Weaving's madness also made the audience feel cold from the bottom of their hearts. Hooah. In the end, he did it. Hugo Weaving lay on the ground, his whole body convulsing. But he looked back at his shackles that had been freed, and the bloody ankle that fell on the ground. His teeth trembled, as if he was enduring the pain, but a smile appeared on his face. The camera turned and changed to a close-up. The lonely sole of the foot lay on the ground, and the traces of pulling on the wound were so conspicuous. In the bloody mess, you can still see the white bone marrow coming out of the ankle bone. The camera pulled back. Hugo Weaving dragged his body forward with difficulty. The blood on the wound stained a bloody road, just like a hellish devil. He looked at the pistol in the hands of the corpse not far in front of him, took out the bullet from his pocket, and slowly loaded it. Amid Jason Statham's constant begging for mercy, he pulled the trigger. The gunshot. Is it over? At this time, the background music sounded again. Hugo Weaving lay weakly on the ground, and the door of the bathroom was suddenly pushed open. The assistant of another branch in the movie, the man who kidnapped the doctor's wife and daughter, walked in slowly. Looking at the embarrassment of the two people, I couldn't help laughing. Just when all the audience thought that the mastermind behind the scenes was in control of everything, Jason Statham, who was originally shot, suddenly stood up, raised the toilet lid ferociously, and smashed it on the assistant's face again and again. It turned out that Lawrence only hit his shoulder and did not kill him. The assistant's bloody face made the camera red again. Saved. Everyone thought so. Hugo Weaving tried to climb out, and after promising Jason Statham that he would ask the police to rescue him, he slowly disappeared behind the door. Jason Statham, who was still trapped in the same place, panted violently to calm himself down. But before he could relax, fear and despair gradually emerged in his eyes. The extremely mysterious musical interlude Hello Zep sounded at the right time. The music became louder and louder. The body that had been lying in a pool of blood slowly stood up and turned its head, as if it felt that the sleeping position was too torturous for its neck. In the theater, all the audience showed incredible eyes. The weird atmosphere was filled. After they had experienced more than 90 minutes of the plot, they did not expect that the ending could be so shocking. At this moment, everyone was broken by the answer to the mystery of the mastermind behind the scenes. The narration sounded, and with Jigsaw's memories, the complete chain of clues finally emerged. This man is called John, and he has an inoperable frontal tumor. The assistant said to Dr. Lawrence, "I'm being attacked by the disease and slowly waiting to die." Jigsaw said, "I hate people who don't know how to appreciate the blessings they have. Most people don't know how to be grateful for their lives. You won't be like that in the future, Adam." The door was closed again amid Adam's desperate wails. Game over. With a loud bang, Jigsaw slammed the door shut, taking away the last ray of light on the screen. The screen was dark, leaving only Adam still screaming in despair. The shouting gradually faded, and the credits began to appear. The movie was over, but the theater was still very quiet. The final climax reversal, especially Jigsaw played by J.K. Simmons, his every move, not only destroyed Adam's heart, but also made the audience ups and downs. Not to mention that this perverted killer has been lying there all the time. Whenever I think about it, I think it is an incredible design. Watching a movie live is different from watching a movie alone at home. Some terrifying and shocking plots may not be so intense if you are alone. But in the cinema, you will unconsciously be affected by the emotions of the people around you. So everyone was silent. This is also the charm of watching movies live. Slowly, the audience began to react. A wonderful movie deserves the encouragement and support of their applause. Pa pa pa, then everyone spontaneously applauded. Some female audience members who were frightened and pale also did not hesitate to applaud, which was a forced smile to give the movie the praise it deserved. Lemon watched all this with interest, clapping his hands and looking at James Wan beside him. He seemed to have mist in his eyes. Could he be crying? Haha. Lemon laughed mercilessly in his heart. Little did he know that this guy didn't perform much better when Buried was recognized. Lemon patted his shoulder and took out a tissue. "Maybe you need this?" Lemon raised his eyebrows and looked at him teasingly. James Wan couldn't stand it and lowered his head awkwardly to take it. He didn't know why, but when he saw everyone's applause after the movie ended, he couldn't help but feel a little sour in his nose. I guess he is not a person who is easily emotional. But he has waited too long for this moment. After 3 or 4 years of setbacks, preparations, and hard study in college, he finally directed a movie of his own. From preparations to the official shooting on the set, to the final editing, Saw contains too much energy and hard work he has put into it. Even so, he still thinks it is worth it. Being able to make a movie is worth it. This has always been his dream. However, James Wan is not a particularly sensitive person. After being slightly touched, he took back his tears. Amid thunderous applause, life must continue to move forward. Maybe this movie will not be a subject that everyone will like, but it is definitely a horror movie that is above the standard and worth the price of the ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Classic Cult Film. Thank you to all my friends who support me. God, this movie is so cool. There were a few parts that made me so nervous. After the show, the fans exchanged their thoughts with their companions in twas and threes. The final reversal is really the finishing touch. I never thought that the mastermind of everything was the old man lying on the ground. By the way, who is the actor who plays the Jigsaw? He is so charming. Adam is the worst. Although Lawrence lost his calf, he escaped. Look at Adam, he will probably starve to death in there. No, this movie makes me want to vomit. I really can't appreciate it. This director is also a talent. Really, this movie is so fucking cool. Several actors performed well, especially the part where Lawrence sawed off his leg. I once thought he was really sawing it. That expression and posture were so accurate. Ugh, the discussion reached Lemon's ears. He was not surprised by these polarized reviews. Saw is a cult film that is a bit depressing. The viewing experience is definitely not comparable to mainstream commercial films. For those fans who can accept it, they will definitely think that the movie is good and the plot design is great. For those fans who can't accept it, they can't even watch it, and they definitely can't like it. Polarization is justified. But it is undeniable that the final reversal climax of Jigsaw is indeed the kind of setting that makes people's eyes shine. In the increasingly popular and conventional movie rhythm, it is definitely outstanding. Just like 7 Deadly Sins and Bad Guys, in the history of horror movies in the future, the image of Jigsaw in Saw is definitely an inevitable classic screen character. What's more, after Saw made up for the designed effects and the plot, the clue reasoning in it is also a rare gimmick for watching movies. Feeling the satisfied emotions of the audiences around him, James Wan's pressure that has been accumulated in his heart has been relieved a lot. He said to Lemon, "I hope the box office of this movie will be good. It would be great if it can exceed 50 million. I hope it can exceed 100 million. Rainaver also expressed his thoughts. Are you two so unconfident? I think it would be good if it's over 200 million. Lemon made a bold prediction. Lemon's casual remark startled James Wan, who was a little surprised and said, "Can it really be over 200 million? If it's 200 million, how much money would it make? At least 30 or 40 million. We probably won't make that much money as screenwriters in our lifetime." Rainaver did a little calculation and couldn't help but smack his lips. 200 million is not a lot. You will definitely have more than this goal in the future. Keep working hard. Lemon stood up to encourage. James Wan thought it was a bit outrageous, shook his head and said nothing. The main creators walked out of the theater chatting. Just as they were about to leave, an audience member at the door recognized him and shouted happily, "It's Jigsaw. I saw the real person." As soon as this was said, many audience members who had just watched the movie immediately turned around, and more than a dozen people surrounded him and asked for autographs. Poor J.K. Simmons has been acting in movies for nearly 20 years, and he is often not popular. Unexpectedly, the small supporting role he played temporarily became popular inexplicably. Lemon on the side was also a little amused. Jason Statham and Hugo Weaving were there, but everyone's interest was focused on Jigsaw. I don't know what these two people are thinking. Well, there are still people who remember them and ask them for autographs, but compared to Jigsaw's popularity, they are still a little bit behind. After the farce, seeing that there were more and more onlookers, the group had to get on the car and leave quickly. Seeing the creators fleeing in a panic, some people who had not seen the movie premiere witnessed this scene and asked curiously, "Is the saw hanging on it good?" Not bad. You will know after you see it. If you are not in good health, it is not recommended to watch it. Don't force yourself, otherwise you will vomit. Someone next to me vomited just now. So powerful? With some doubts, some people who eat melons decisively bought tickets for the midnight show and planned to give it a try. In the car, James Wan was also a little incredible. Do so many people really like this movie? Of course, didn't you just see it? James Wan smiled happily, as if he was dreaming, extremely satisfied. At this time, Lemon looked at J.K. Simmons, who still had a big bald head. It was normal to shave his head to play a person who had cancer and had undergone chemotherapy. "Mr. Simmons, if the box office of this movie is still good, we will launch a sequel to the movie right after. Will there be any problem with your schedule?" J.K. Simmons, who had just recovered, smiled and nodded and said, "Don't worry, I will set aside the corresponding schedule, as long as you notify me." People are not stupid. The mainstream of Hollywood now is sequel production. It's not easy for the jigsaw he played to become a special existence in the series of movies. How could he not agree? Besides, the salary is also very sufficient. Although it is a supporting role and there are not many scenes, it seems that the audience has the deepest impression. Then let's do this. After a week, we can see the general box office trend of the movie. If the results are good, I will discuss with Europa Films and plan to sign a 3-part contract with Mr. Simmons. As for the salary, in addition to a one-time increase of 50% of the basic salary, each subsequent film will increase by 15%, plus 1% of the North American box office, which will take effect from the next one. Think about the Saw in the future. There are 8 parts, and each one can make a lot of money for Lionsgate. If they write the plot more carefully, they can make 5 or 6 parts. Such a cash cow, of course, must be tied to the core actors first, so as to avoid friction between the two sides and the failure of cooperation. And a 3-part contract is already a common operation in the industry. If it goes up, Simmons may not be willing to agree. Simmons, who was listening to the side, silently calculated a sum in his mind. His current salary is $400,000. If he can still participate in the next one, it will be $600,000, not to mention the box office share. No matter how you look at it, it's a good deal. After all, he's a supporting role, and for a veteran actor like Simmons, the salary is already very high. If Saw wasn't a series of movies, and the core character Jigsaw was really charming, there would be no need to offer such a price. But compared to the soaring salary of Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man, his conditions are nothing. As the saying goes, in a series of movies, the issue of value has never been calculated according to the normal Hollywood calculation rules. Or is it a willing fight? A willing fight? Chapter 231 Takeoff. Subscription recommendation. October 10th is a very good time slot. After all, it is not a battleground like the Christmas and summer seasons, so there will not be any big productions from big companies that will be released in October. In the same time period, the movies that can compete head-on with Saw are all similar small-scale movies. For example, Miramax's Kill Bill, another masterpiece of the eccentric director Quentin. For example, Buena Vista Pictures' Bears of Legend. Well, let's skip this one, it's an animation, and the audience group is completely different. And then there is Warner Pictures' Mystic River, directed by Clint Eastwood, which is also his 24th work, starring Sean Penn and Tim Robbins, but it is an art award-winning route, and theoretically it does not pose any threat. If you calculate it this way, it seems that only Kill Bill needs attention. This is indeed the case. On the evening of October 11th, in an office in the AMC headquarters office building, Braden Wyatt was listening to the report of the theater director. As the largest cinema chain in the United States, AMC arranges a number of films in the theaters, where they are shown almost all, based on detailed real-time market data. Boss, Miramax's Kill Bill has started its first round of screenings. According to the summarized data, the highest theater attendance is 80%, and the average attendance of the entire theater chain is 56%. Not bad. Braden Wyatt smiled and said, the average attendance is more than half, which has met the screening expectations. They did a good job in publicity, and Quentin's brand is still well known, so the attendance was so good on the first day of the release. If the word of mouth can continue to be promoted, it is estimated that it will increase in the future. Boss, I suggest adding a few more theaters tomorrow and showing their films to further expand the market capacity, the supervisor suggested. Don't worry, let's wait and see, Braden Wyatt asked. What about Paramount? The movie they are promoting, Saw, premiered yesterday, right? How is the movie going? The supervisor said, the data has not been compiled yet. The people below are still calculating. I'll ask them to bring the call here later. In the office, both of them waited for news in silence. At the same time, not only AMC Cinemas is doing this, but other large and small chain cinemas are also doing a new round of market research. You know, screening is also a business. Timely adjustments, arranging cinema schedules, based on real-time feedback, and squeezing out the fattest profits are the most basic operations of each cinema. They are not philanthropists. Of course, whoever makes money will be screened more. Ding-ling-ling, the phone rang, and the manager stood up from the sofa, picked up the phone, and asked, "How is it? How are the screenings in the theaters?" Manager Charles, "Several theaters in New York are almost full. Full. Yes, the attendance rate is over 90%. The managers of each theater hope that we can add a few more screenings and give some more screenings." 2 minutes later, another call came. "Manager Charles, Los Angeles theaters are requesting additional screenings. Movie fans are still queuing up for the screenings and hope to add a theater." Manager Charles, "There is news from the Chicago theater requesting additional screenings." Charles' hands were weak as the calls came one after another. After a little sorting, he reported, "Among our 56 theaters, 30% are full, 40% have an attendance rate of over 70%, and the rest are mostly able to meet the asterisk average line. This movie is very popular. Although the American film market is the largest in the world, the base of certain audience groups is there. If your work is more attractive to the audience, then the number of viewers of other film works will definitely not be much higher. This is competition. The attendance rate is a data that the theater chain pays more attention to. With the increase and decrease of one, the effect is more intuitive. At least after hearing such data performance, Braden Wyatt couldn't wait to ask, "What about the box office? Have you summarized it? I'll go and urge them." Charles was also very sensible and immediately called the marketing department. After a while, the door of the office was pushed open. The assistant of the marketing department, that is, Charles's supervisor, walked in and said with a happy face, "Supervisor, President, good news. The market response is very enthusiastic." Oh. Charles was delighted and immediately took the report. After a few glances, he put the form on Braden's desk and said, "Yesterday's midnight show and the first day box office have been counted. 56 theaters have shown 5 shows in total, and the cumulative box office is $1.1236 million US. The first day box office can exceed 1 million, and it is a movie that is not shown in too many theaters. This market performance is very impressive." Braden Wyatt thought about it and asked again, "How much is the box office for Kill Bill?" Charles answered again, "According to our release situation, the cumulative box office is $867,400 US. Originally, the October schedule has always been a relatively quiet movie market, but I didn't expect two sharks to come at once. The data performance of Kill Bill is also very good. Although it is not as good as Saw, it is definitely worth supporting. You must know that this is only the box office statistics within AMC cinemas. There are 5 or 6 large cinema chains in the United States, and the rest of the small agents are countless. According to the results, a slight estimate will show that the first day box office plus the midnight show of these two movies will not be less than $3 million US. However, that is not AMC's business. They just want to occupy the market share they deserve and maximize their profits. Braden Wyatt asked again, "How are the reactions from the audience and the media?" Charles replied, "As for Saw, most of the critics don't like it. After all, this type of film is not a subject that critics are happy with. But I guess Paramount Pictures has made some efforts secretly, and the reviews are definitely mostly positive. As for the audience, it's more extreme. Some want to watch it again after watching it, and some can't stand it and leave after watching the first half. As for Kill Bill, as always in Quentin's style, the critics' reviews are slightly higher, and the audience mostly give it good reviews, but the real performance, the data will not be wrong." Braden Wyatt smiled and said, "Nowadays, film critics are becoming less and less popular, and we don't need to pay too much attention to them. They are a group of guys who do things for money. Who expects them to be really fair? I haven't seen that their influence on the audience is getting smaller and smaller. That's it. Tomorrow, 30 theaters will be reserved, 20 for Saw, and 10 for Kill Bill. As for what will happen later, we will arrange it then." "Okay, I'll do it right away." Chapter 230 to Quentin, subscription recommendation. Director Quentin, I heard that this movie is your 30th birthday gift to Uma Thurman. What do you think of your relationship with her? I just drove from home to Miramax headquarters, but as soon as I got out of the door, I was surrounded by several paparazzi or media reporters waiting on the side. These people always like to chase hotspots. Whenever a new movie is released, there will be a similar situation. Quentin Tarantino seems to be a little accustomed to it. Are you close to her? Someone asked. What do you think of the bloody scenes in the movie? Someone said that you always have some very perverted scenes in your mind. Is that true? Who said that? Quentin Tarantino, who is not a particularly kind person, stared at the reporter who asked the question, and continued, that's called movie beauty, understand? It's not bloody. By the way, who stipulates that fighting cannot be expressed directly? Also, Uma Thurman and I are good friends, and we have always had a good relationship on weekdays, but I never said that I regarded this movie as a birthday gift. But those were revealed by the staff of your crew. He also said that during the preparation period, you deliberately postponed the start time of filming because Uma Thurman was pregnant. Is this true? FXXK, which son of a bitch snitched it? As soon as the swear words came out, the reporters beside him became even more excited. One of them asked loudly, Director Quentin, so this is true. Do you really have a special relationship with Uma Thurman? From Pulp Fiction to Kill Bill, she has always been the heroine in your movies. It's because you are more than friends, right? I heard that you had a relationship with her. No, if you dare to write nonsense again, I will sue you. Quentin was a little furious. It's not that his privacy was exposed, but these tabloid paparazzi's ability to make up stories is simply first class. He was afraid that something strange would happen again. But the problem is, someone saw you two staying in the same hotel intimately. Also, the time when she was pregnant was just when you were preparing for this new work. Is it a coincidence? The reporter seized the opportunity to pursue it relentlessly, and all kinds of speculations without specific sources were thrown at Quentin desperately, almost saying that he and Uma Thurman had an improper relationship. Quentin was very angry and could not tolerate it. He pushed open the car door and argued with the reporters on the street. While he was cursing, his agent arrived and pulled him into the car. These words should not appear in the mouth of a public figure. Back in the car, Quentin also reacted from his anger and knew that he would only fall into the hands of others by doing this. Fortunately, he kept his mouth shut and pretended not to hear. The agent honked the horn forcefully, started the car, and finally escaped from the crowd. Quentin, those people are not afraid of making things bigger, or they just want to make it bigger on purpose. The agent held the steering wheel and reminded, you shouldn't respond to such questions that are unscrupulous and want to gain news traffic. After so many years in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, who calmed down, still understood these principles. He knew that those reporters had no good intentions and obviously wanted to lead him into the ditch. This kind of language trap can really fall into the trap if you are not careful. Quentin thought so, but he couldn't help but curse. Damn, a bunch of damn bastards. He looked through the car window at the direction of his home. Seeing that it was getting farther and farther away, and even his shadow could not be seen, he slowly relaxed. After a long time, he remembered something and asked, Ian, have you received the box office feedback from Kill Bill? What is the response? Not bad. The first day box office revenue was $3.1 million to $62 million. After the movie ended, many viewers also recognized the quality of the movie. Agent Ian said, and through the rearview mirror, he could clearly see Quentin's face with joy. It's okay, but it doesn't mean anything. We have to continue to observe. As an industry insider, Quentin Tarantino is very clear that his movies are watched by a large number of people for his directing signature. So if most of the fans in the early stage are fans, both the box office data and the word of mouth of the audience are not so real. If we really want to compare, we have to wait a week to see what the passers-by think. However, although he said so, he was actually quite satisfied with such a result. Any other news? He asked again. Miramax has decided to invest another $2 million in publicity, and the film critics have also said hello. I believe that with the early momentum of this movie, the word of mouth can be hyped up even more. However, in the next few days, you need to take the crew to participate in more promotional activities, to cooperate with Miramax to build momentum. I know that. Anything else? And there is. Ian said slightly objectively. There is a new movie Saw that is also being released. The quality is also good. According to the information I have inquired, their market performance is even higher than ours. The box office is $3.7675 million US dollars. Quentin did not speak, but it was not an unacceptable fact that there were movies that were better than his works. Is this what competition is like? There are winners and losers. The reason for his silence was that he was wondering who this monster was. He had never heard of the name of director James Wan, as if he suddenly appeared. The car continued to drive. Quentin's destination for this trip was Miramax, which was to meet Harvey Weinstein and attend the cocktail party held by the company in the evening. However, when passing by a cinema, he saw a queue in the ticket office from a distance. Quentin could no longer hold back his curiosity and was ready to see what the movie called Saw was all about. Anyway, it was still early, so he told his agent Ian and they decided to buy tickets together. As soon as they entered the cinema hall, the queue had not yet dispersed, and Quentin was a little curious. Are all of these people here to see Saw? I don't know, but the next show is indeed this movie. The two of them queued for a while and successfully bought tickets to enter the theater and sit down. Before the show started, they looked around and found that the attendance rate was quite high. From time to time, they could hear some audience discussions. Man, is this movie really that good? I was planning to watch Kill Bill. Don't worry, when have I ever lied to you? I watched the premiere last night and now it's the second time. Believe me, don't be scared and scream when the time comes. Huh, I will scream. Fuck, what the hell is this? Chapter 233 Unhappy Harvey. Happy National Day. Beverly Hills, Hilton Hotel. As a luxurious place that is up to par in Hollywood, today, the banquet hall in the backyard was directly booked by Harvey Weinstein, specially used to hold a celebration party for the movie Kill Bill and director Quentin Tarantino. The opening performance was good and the audience's reputation was good. As a distributor, Miramax's management was very happy. According to the market forecast given by the market department after the research, the first day box office was $3.162 million US dollars. If it is screened for at least 1 month, the North American box office of Kill Bill will definitely exceed 100 million. Looking at the global market, it will not be less than 200 million. As for the production costs and the expenses generated by publicity and promotion, a total of 65 million. After deducting them, the profit is estimated to be no less than 40 million. In addition to the box office revenue itself and the longer term offline benefits, what is more important is the further improvement of the industry's reputation and influence. Miramax, a film brand, will also firmly rank among the top second-tier channel merchants. With all the good news added up, how can you not be satisfied? So this time Harvey Weinstein was not stingy. In addition to Miramax's senior management and the crew members of Kill Bill, there were also many partners who had good relations with Miramax and some overseas agents who were invited to the celebration party. Harvey Weinstein took Bob Weinstein. The two are brothers who founded a film company together, but Harvey's style of doing things is obviously more aggressive, and hugged Quentin Tarantino and clinked glasses with him, saying, "Quentin, your performance this time is as good as always. I toast you on behalf of Miramax." Quentin Tarantino was a little flattered and quickly picked up the glass and bent over to respond. No, I should be the one to toast. Thank you Mr. Harvey for taking care of me all the time. If it weren't for your support, I wouldn't have such a result now. Yes, thank you Mr. Harvey for your support. Quentin's agent on the side also quickly echoed. Then, the crew members and filming team around them also stood up and raised their glasses to toast the two brothers Harvey Weinstein. Ha, Oklahoma, I'll drink this one. Everyone please feel free. Harvey Weinstein's eyes disappeared from laughing, and for a moment he felt quite happy that the Hollywood market was letting him do whatever he wanted. After everyone finished toasting, they sat down again. Some small film companies or the bosses of several overseas agents who depended on Miramax for their livelihood also began to come over frequently to toast, saying some good things from time to time. In short, from the beginning of the cocktail party, Harvey Weinstein and Quentin Tarantino were the center of the whole banquet, and they were praised by everyone. Those who flattered Harvey Weinstein naturally took a fancy to Miramax's channels and connections in the circle. hoping to be promoted a little, while those who flattered Quentin Tarantino tried to see if they could cooperate with him to make a movie. Success after success, and being a well-received director who can't see this halo. The box office appeal behind this is piles of Franklin. A group of people were chatting politely with each other, and the atmosphere was very good. Suddenly, a white man holding a few newspapers and magazines in his hand hurriedly walked to Harvey Weinstein's side and whispered something in his ear. Harvey Weinstein continued to respond with a smile without changing his expression. When it was almost time, he followed the white man out of the banquet hall and came to the hotel lounge outside. Sitting on a chair, he took the newspaper and opened the entertainment section of the First Los Angeles Times. The headline on the front page was extremely eye-catching. Saw has set off a horror storm again, and it is coming strongly. Opening the New York Daily again, the entertainment section headline is still Saw. In the specially opened film critic column, the evaluation is not very high, but it is also quite pertinent. It is said that, if you like to watch horror movies, this movie is recommended to watch, and the setting inside is full of imagination. The next one is not to brag about any movie, but to broadcast an interesting story. Looking at the extremely clear photo, Harvey Weinstein was immediately furious and quickly asked someone to call Quentin. Quentin was drinking happily, and when he heard the words, he came over in confusion and was about to say something. Unexpectedly, Harvey Weinstein threw the newspaper on the ground and said angrily, "What are you doing? At this critical moment, you are still doing such a stupid thing." In the newspaper, the news headline and content of the report were that at noon, Quentin Tarantino secretly bought a ticket to watch Saw. Quentin was a little speechless and explained with a depressed look on his face, "I was just curious about what Saw was about. It was so popular at the box office, so I went to the cinema to watch it. Who knew that it would be such a coincidence that I would run into a paparazzi?" Harvey Weinstein was also very troubled. "Quentin, remember, you are the focus of everyone's attention now. Your movie has just been released, and there are topics to hype. You are no longer a person who does not have much news value on weekdays, so you must consider in advance what kind of impact it will bring about. There is nothing wrong with you going to the movie, but the problem is that the other party is your competitor, and the two of you are still competing. What will the audience think if you do this? Admit that you are not as good as the other party? It's my fault. I didn't think it through." Quentin Tarantino bowed his head to learn. He was supported by Harvey to this day, and the two of them are not just a simple cooperative relationship, so he didn't dare to talk back in front of Harvey. Harvey waved his hand helplessly, and the latter quietly withdrew. Originally, Kill Bill had a good first day box office, which was a good start. Saw sold better than it, which was a bit disgusting, but at least it was not bad. As for why I was angry, it was because Paramount Pictures simply beat Miramax in the media channel. The two are not at the same level at all. Just look at the 4 or 5 newspapers and magazines with large sales. Miramax did give writing fees, but the front page headlines were still all taken by Saw. In terms of box office, is the gap between the two really that big? Not that big, and it's not the kind of crushing gap. In terms of reputation, director Quentin and an unknown new director can't compare. Even so, when it comes to media resources, the result is completely the opposite. Kill Bill may not even make it to the front page, let alone the secondary pages. In the same way, when facing opponents who are not at the same level, the 6 major Hollywood companies fully demonstrate their dominance in the industry. Chapter 234. Increased publicity. Please subscribe and recommend. While Harvey Weinstein was depressed, Paramount Pictures, as the more successful party, was very relaxed. In the early morning, the bustling Los Angeles had not yet woken up. In the spacious mansion, Shirley Lansing, who had woken up early, sat on a chair on the balcony, enjoying a delicious and nutritious breakfast, while thinking about the distribution operation of Saw. As the North American distributor of the film, Paramount Pictures needs to make appropriate adjustments based on the daily trend of the film. Moreover, the final result is likely to directly affect Paramount's performance this quarter. There are projects with great profit potential, and each one is extremely important to Paramount. After all, sometimes, the amount of profit is not as good as the percentage return, which is more beneficial to the stock. I casually looked at the time. The statistics of the next day screenings of Thor across the United States should be almost complete, so I called my assistant and asked her to print a report at the company and send it over. About half an hour later, the assistant drove downstairs. After the butler opened the door, he walked all the way to the second floor balcony, in a hurry, but with a bit of joy between his eyebrows. Are the statistical results out? Yes. The assistant nodded, took out the document report from the briefcase, and handed it over. A total of $4.903 million US, a year-on-year increase of 30%. The assistant said happily. Shirley Lansing nodded, with a smile on her lips, but did not respond. She put down the report, got up and went into the room to take out a bottle of red wine and 2 wine glasses from the storage layer of the counter, and poured a glass for herself and the assistant. The assistant took it quickly, thinking that her boss should be in a good mood. Shirley Lansing usually doesn't like to drink except for socializing. Shirley Lansing, who was in a good mood, took a sip lightly, put down the glass again, and said with some emotion, "Another young director has emerged. Yes. With this increase, as long as it doesn't collapse, it will definitely be a market hit. Notify the company's management to hold a meeting at 2 p.m. to discuss publicity and promotion." Shirley Lansing was giving instructions when her cell phone rang. It was Andrew David, one of the publicity department's management. After answering the phone, Shirley Lansing smiled and said, "Good morning, David. What's up?" Last night, in Chicago, a 17-year-old girl had a cardiac arrest and fainted while watching Saw. It was obviously a serious matter, but when Andrew David said it, he seemed a little happy. Of course, Shirley Lansing also knew why she was happy. After all, if such news was hyped up, it would be the best publicity material and the most suitable hot news for horror movies. How is the person? Nothing serious. She was sent to the hospital and survived. Why did she faint? The girl had some problems with her left ventricle and had surgery. She couldn't stand too much stimulation. Then when she was watching the movie, her heart beat too fast, causing breathing disorder and shortness. She suddenly fainted and fell into a coma. I see. Shirley Lansing thought carefully, thinking about whether there was any way to operate. As for Andrew David's call, he naturally saw the publicity value of it, and seeing that the president was still silent, he first stated his plan. "I have sent someone to contact the person involved, and then discussed with the hospital, and found the media and TV stations to broadcast the news. The two parties will conceal the premise of the heart problem. After all, a normal person who is scared to death after watching a movie is more in need of hype than a person who is already in poor health. Well, let's do as you say. I will ask the board of directors for approval and mobilize a batch of funds specifically for the fermentation and hype of this incident. Oh, by the way, also find a public relations company to lead the topic online, saying that Saw is an excellent horror work comparable to The Shining, and it is not recommended for ordinary audiences to watch it. If you must watch it, be prepared to be scared." With a definite plan, large companies like Paramount can act quickly. Around 3 p.m. that day, many tabloids began to report that Saw almost murdered a young female audience. The content was also mixed, but most of them revolved around the main line of the incident and slightly criticized the current movies, which have more and more large-scale shots, without considering the audience's tolerance. Then, another TV station took the initiative to rush to a community hospital in Chicago to interview the parties involved. The girl talked about the process in detail, singing the same tune with the host on the scene, roughly about the movie, how it was shot too suddenly and scary, and how she felt when she fainted. The attending physician also showed up and proved from a medical perspective that if the movie is too scary, it will indeed bring a necessary physical burden to the audience. As for why these people cooperated so well, of course, Paramount's hush money was enough, $1.5 million US, and a related confidentiality contract was signed. If you dare to leak it, you will be sued to death in minutes. For the sake of money, it is just a simple unified rhetoric, which is really smooth. After everything is ready, it is the viral promotion that the 6 major Hollywood studios have played. In just 2 days, newspapers and TV stations were all full of news about the Saw movie almost scared people to death. The gossip spirit of some people who were watching the show was directly ignited, and in an instant, together with the news media, this incident became a topic of gossip among many people. Countless movie fans and audiences turned their attention to the movie Saw where the incident took place. For a time, there was also a wave of enthusiasm on the internet. Yahoo community even opened a special discussion column on the homepage, which can be entered with one click. Many people were watching the show, while watching the many water armors hidden in the middle wantonly leading the rhythm of the film discussion, and expanding the momentum. The posts were full of reviews of Saw, and the voices saying that the movie was scary accounted for the vast majority. For example, "It's really scary. I strongly recommend those who are brave enough to go and see it. I can understand why the girl fainted. I took my girlfriend to see it, and she was so scared that she fell over in her seat. If you have a weak heart, don't go and see it. Serious warning." Originally, there were many passers-by who didn't pay attention to this kind of movie. After such publicity, they felt it was a challenge and wanted to test their courage, which aroused their interest in watching the movie. Many people also made bets with friends or classmates, saying that whoever performed the worst in watching the movie would be the most timid. As a result, more and more people are ready to go to the cinema to find out what's going on. Chapter 235 The so-called media subscription recommendation. 2 days later, the incident further fermented. Paramount Pictures, the industry leader, took the initiative to issue a statement saying that it would hold an apology press conference for the film. Of course, this was by no means a scene of bowing its head and admitting defeat, but a catalyst for further promoting publicity. In terms of marketing, no one is better than these film companies that have mastered media resources. Think about the past 7 or 8 years. The Harry Potter series of books, which were first published and then unknown, were not also led by Warner, and only then did they have today's influence. October 15th, in the morning, a black Cadillac drove steadily, and the scenery on both sides of the road passed by hurriedly. In the car, Shirley Lansing put down the newspaper, looked at the front page headlines, and was still discussing, and was very satisfied with the company's execution. "Is everyone ready? When we hold the press conference later, we must make it a big scene. Well, President, please rest assured, we have invited more than 30 media outlets, and they will send reporters to participate." The assistant sorted out the speech, and nodded in response. Meanwhile, in Lyman's mansion in Beverly Hills, James Wan was extremely nervous. After the movie was released, he was taking the main creators of the movie to promote it on the road. Suddenly, he received a call from Lyman, asking them to come back. Then, he heard on the road that many media outlets were criticizing Saw, and thought that after this incident, his work might be withdrawn from the screen. Lyman naturally found James Wan's speculation funny. Would Paramount leave the profits untouched? How could it be possible? This was as funny as the capitalists' words that they had a very social conscience. Although he was also notified of these hype promotions, he really didn't expect Paramount to make so many names out of such a small matter. In his opinion, it was not rational to watch horror movies when one had a bad heart. Besides, it was clearly stated on the movie poster that it was not recommended for pregnant women and people with physical discomfort to watch it. In addition, due to the classification, minors were already excluded. Even so, this kind of thing could still happen. Who could be blamed? Anyway, it is impossible to blame the movie for everything. But what is amazing is that Paramount seized on such a small matter and carried out a very clever negative propaganda, deliberately saying that the movie is scary, it is their fault, and they need to apologize. But it also aroused the potential audience's competitive spirit and interest in watching the movie. After all, what man would not want to prove himself when a horror movie that can scare normal people into the hospital is a horror movie? Moreover, this is the best work to openly invite female friends who have a good impression to watch the movie together to promote feelings. Don't ask why. The answer is that both parties are mentally prepared for this. Otherwise, who would go to see a horror movie with you? Just find a theater at night, and you will find that single people rarely go to see horror movies alone. And the cleverness of Paramount is that first the matter was hyped up and attracted a lot of people's attention, and then they couldn't stand the public pressure and held an apology press conference. If the film's creators showed up at this time and bowed sincerely, many people would probably be so victorious that they would think that it was their keyboard work or the media's voice that caused all this. Little did they know that Paramount Pictures had already planned with the media to deceive them together. You know, in the world of capital, many of the truths that they think are the truth are just little girls who have been slightly dressed up. What kind of news is valuable is not ordinary. The Truman Show, isn't it good? At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the apology press conference was held on time. A group of reporters who had set up spotlights and were ready to watch the excitement stood in their positions. You know, all the reporters and free media people present, most of them are paparazzi or received red envelopes, so how could they not show a good attitude? At the same time, Lyman was wearing a formal suit, sitting backstage in the lounge of the press conference, watching James Wan recite the script, the apology. Wow, it's quite well prepared. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the door. At the press conference, the host had already started to briefly introduce the fans' viewing situation after the movie was released, and then invited Shirley Lansing to speak on stage. The flashlights kept flashing. Shirley Lansing looked calm and said that she was willing to bear all the medical expenses of the girl who fainted from shock and the cost of her subsequent care and nutrition. Damn. Countless reporters and free media people were stunned. Do you still have to be so hypocritical? If there is no prior communication, who will believe it? Oh, the audience believes it. Everything will be fine. Shirley Lansing continued to be hypocritical. After giving a lot of official statements, she finally let the film's main creators come up. The flashlights started flashing again, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. James Wan, Jason Statham, Hugo Weaving, J.K. Simmons and other main creators lined up. Well, there was no Lyman. He was the producer, it was none of his business, and he didn't need to come up and pretend to cooperate with the performance. After expressing their apologies, everyone bowed to the reporters together, as if they had discussed it. It is conceivable that this nearly 90-degree bow of the main creators will definitely become the focus of the media reports in the future, and perhaps this photo will be published countless times. Next, it was another session for reporters to ask questions freely. Director James Wan, when you were creating the film, did you ever think that the camera was too scary and caused such a thing to happen? Red envelope reporter number 1 asked. No, but if something like this happens, no matter what, we will bear the corresponding responsibility. James Wan said anxiously, cooperating with a question from the other side. So, have you ever considered re-rating the film? Classified to NC-17. This film has been reviewed, and there is no redefinition of the rating, and this film does not show too much blood and violence. So, how were those killing mechanisms designed? Number 3 stepped forward. Combining the characters and the reality, all of Jigsaw's actions are punitive in nature, so he designed those mechanisms to let the victim choose. So, Jigsaw is a good guy? No, he is a bad guy, a complete revenger. In the audience, Lyman was stunned. Paramount's inadvertently conceived publicity statement seemed full of sincerity and expressed apology. But in fact, it did not do anything. Instead, it took this opportunity to promote the movie more. It can only be said that in a society driven by capital, what you see and hear are all designed by others and are willing to let you know. The active cooperation of the parties involved has blocked the way out of the possible failure of this hype. It can be imagined that Paramount really made a good move. Chapter 236 Continued Growth. Subscription Recommendation. With a large amount of money spent, the publicity effect can be said to be immediate. The box office of Saw has been rising steadily for several consecutive days, which has completely impressed theater giants such as AMC. It has become a foregone conclusion that the film will be screened in more theaters, and the number of theaters showing it has soared to 1,300. For a black cult film, this number is definitely considered important. The result of the cooperation between publicity and theaters is that the commercial value of this film is constantly squeezed. Saw has set off a wave of movie watching craze in the rather cold October. The biggest impact is of course the competitors that were released at the same time, especially Kill Bill, which originally had a very overlapping audience group, which was particularly unhappy. In an office of Miramax, Harvey Weinstein looked at the newly calculated market report and smoked a cigar in a bleak manner. Kill Bill had a good start, but unexpectedly, the situation gradually became a little bad in the past few days. The first day box office was $3.12 million, and the attendance rate was close to 60%. The second day was better, with a daily box office of $3.5 million and an average attendance rate of 64%. The third day continued to climb steadily, with an average attendance rate of nearly 70%. And a 3-day cumulative box office of $10.2 million. The fourth day attendance rate continued to rise, reaching 73%, and the 4-day cumulative box office was $14.76 million US. The fifth day was a rest day, and it ushered in an explosion, with a daily box office of $7.32 million and a 5-day total box office of $22.08 million. But what about Saw? The first day box office was already higher than Kill Bill. After 5 days of screening, even though everyone increased the number of theaters, the attendance rate of others was still high, and there were even full shows. The total cumulative box office has reached $33.56 million US. Not only is the total box office $10 million higher than Kill Bill, but the momentum is also different from Kill Bill, which is gradually declining. Whether it is online or in the media terminal, the discussion is still so heated. And even though the attendance of Kill Bill has been increasing, the trend of slowing growth is clearly visible. This is only the first week. If the number of fans watching the movie decreases, it is estimated that the speed of decline will also be very fast. This is the reason why Harvey Weinstein is not in a good mood. As a senior person in the industry, some data, the information reflected through the surface is enough to make people not want to see. Now, many newspapers have begun to praise Saw as a box office miracle, although those reports have more or less traces of public relations behind the money and effort of Paramount Pictures. The terrifying box office growth of Saw is an indisputable fact. 2 days later, it is a new week again. Harvey Weinstein's face is getting gloomier, and the annoying name is still hanging high on the box office list. Yes, because after a week of screening, the total box office performance of Saw finally settled at $46.52 million. The weekly box office of $46.52 million US undoubtedly made Saw the champion of the North American weekly box office rankings, October 11th to 17th. The second place was naturally Kill Bill, one of the few that could still reap some box office, with a weekly box office of $33.22 million US. The third place was the youth campus film Rock School, which had been screened for 2 weeks, with a weekly box office of $18.76 million US. Such results really made many film companies envious, and they could make back their investment in 1 week, and the rest was pure profit. No matter how you think about it, it is a big dark horse. As for Paramount Pictures, one of the parties involved, it was of course more relaxed. If it weren't for the poor performance of other films released by the company, they would have wanted to hold an internal party to celebrate. After all, with the market potential shown by Saw, it is basically scheduled to be a big hit. The only thing that is unknown is how much Paramount Pictures can gain from this movie. After another week, another old second-tier film company was depressed. New Line Cinema's film The Texas Chainsaw Massacre premiered on October 17th and was declared a failure. Originally, their company had a good idea, to play the snipe and clam, retreat to advance, and take advantage of the popularity to make a fortune. They quickly moved the film originally planned to be released in November to October 17th, which was also when Saw began to be popular, and Kill Bill was screened for a week and its momentum slowly declined. If it went as expected, the benefits would be, first, Saw was popular, and because of the similar theme and name of the cult film, it would attract a wave of traffic. Second, Kill Bill and the movies of the same period seemed to be not very good, and were beaten by Saw. If they went up, they might replace them, and become the second place, competing for some market traffic. But New Line Cinema never expected that not only Saw was as strong as ever and firmly sat on the weekly box office champion, but Kill Bill was also a freak. It seemed to be in trouble, but it still got more than $30 million US a week later. The market is so small, and these two companies took over $80 million in the box office. As a result, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was surrounded and killed. It was okay on the first day of the premiere. The audience was excited, and the attendance rate was nearly 70%. But on the second day, it decreased instead of increasing. New Line Cinema knew that it was going to be bad. As expected, the audience still voted with their feet and chose to watch Saw and Kill Bill. In this way, after the second week, the market structure remained unchanged. In the weekly box office rankings of the second week, October 18th to 24, the champion and the top 3 still inherited their original positions, but the new film The Texas Chainsaw Massacre ranked 5th, only earning $10 million. When the data came out, it was like a thunderclap, and the entire Hollywood cult circle was shocked. Why? Because of the second week's harvest of $55.37 million. Paramount Pictures officially announced that the box office of Saw has exceeded 100 million. Is breaking 100 million amazing? Of course it is amazing. This kind of thing needs comparison. In the film market, the box office performance is definitely dominated by mainstream commercial films, and the annual box office total list is basically dominated by so-called blockbusters. With the performance of Saw, it is hard to say whether it can enter the top 20 of the list. But in terms of production cost and return on investment, Saw is different. With a production cost of $10 million, which blockbuster dares to compare with it? In addition, James Wan is a newcomer. Quentin Tarantino also spent many years to slowly come to the fore, and he had well-received works such as Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction as a foundation. But now it is this new director who has surpassed Quentin's works, and the box office of the first one has exceeded 100 million. Has Hollywood heard of this person before? No, but now he is a hot new star in the circle. Hollywood has never concealed its pursuit of success. Even many film companies and directors have begun to study the success of the movie Saw. Following the trend, it is popular all over the world. In other words, is this called learning from the successful experience of the successful? Perhaps in their opinion, as long as they know the routines and tricks, it is feasible to replicate such box office performance. At most, it is not bad to make less money. To be more precise, they think that there are some changes in the direction of the film market, and horror and thriller films are going to come to the fore. Just as the popularity of Spider-Man has made everyone see the market value of superhero movies, maybe Saw can become popular this time, because the audience has fallen in love with this type of theme again. But unfortunately, most of those who are ready to follow the trend have not analyzed it thoroughly enough. Just like smart people like New Line Cinema, they have already suffered first. If it is so easy to replicate successfully, it would not be James Wan's turn to achieve it, right? What's more, the previous Saw did not have such a huge momentum, no big publicity, and no media resources with good public relations. It relied on the audience's own choice to win $50 million, which is already the limit. But now, with the support of a giant like Paramount, channels are no longer a problem, and the box office potential is further developed. Although such results are somewhat beyond Lyman's expectations, they are not surprising. Because there is really no strong competitor in the schedule. In addition to watching Saw, do the audience have any other better choices? The movie market is a winner-takes-all market. Blind movie watching is not something worth talking about. After all, if you don't watch the high box office, will you watch those bad ones? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Career Progress, Subscription Recommendation. October 25th. People were coming and going in the CAA headquarters building. On the internal projects to be reviewed, every possible film and television production deeply stimulated every ambitious and dreamy agent. If they could negotiate or push their cooperating clients to the top, it would be what they worked hard for every day. Having already stood on a tall building and enjoyed the pleasure of overlooking the world, who would not want to climb one step higher, stand higher, and have a wider vision? Under the appearance of suits and leather shoes, no one concealed the desire in their hearts. Profits, fame, flowers, and applause are really the most fascinating poisons in the world. Fortunately, I'm on the right path. Johnson sat in his own independent office, drinking coffee, looking out the clean and bright French windows, thinking inexplicably. The success of several films such as Three Idiots, Fury, and Bad Guys not only made Lemon's director career flourish, but Johnson's status as an agent responsible for business processing in CAA also rose day by day. With an independent office, more complete internal information resources, and high-end connections, Johnson is undoubtedly the best agent now. After drinking coffee, he looked at his watch and saw that it was almost time. Johnson quickly took his briefcase, went down to the underground parking lot, and drove to Lemon's mansion. Even though his status has risen, he still attaches great importance to Lemon. He is a wise man and knows who he needs to rely on for his career development. About 20 minutes later, he successfully entered Beverly Hills, parked the car, informed the housekeeper, and came to the living room on the second floor. As far as I can see, Lemon is sitting on the sofa and chatting with James Wan. As for the purpose of Lemon looking for him, it is naturally to start a formal film company. In Hollywood, it is not difficult to register a film company. Many directors or producers have their own film companies, but the problem is that everyone, like Lemon before, chooses to be affiliated, just pays a little attention to the finances, and does not need too much management. But now Lemon is thinking about setting up a company with independent production capabilities. If it is formal, it will need some guidance from professionals. Anyway, Lemon is not sure how to do it best, and he is still in the dark. "Johnson, come and sit here." Seeing the people coming, Lemon greeted them warmly. "How is it going? If you want to invest in filming a movie, it is right to need a company." Johnson sat down and analyzed to Lemon. "First of all, to make a movie, you must set up a crew. These coordinated work, as well as the subsequent salary expenditure and filming expenses. If there is no company responsible, it is easy to make a mess in terms of finance. Before, you chose to be affiliated with Paramount Pictures, and you don't have to be responsible for these, but now, you want more autonomy, so you must do a good job in this area." Lemon nodded silently. It was because of this that he was eager to have a more complete production company. After all, working and being your own boss are two completely different things. "So what should we do?" Johnson continued to respond. "I'm not very professional in financial matters, so I can't give too much advice, but I think that establishing cooperative relationships with those old accounting firms can also solve the initial problem. Then as for the production, I suggest directly acquiring an existing production company. Don't you register it yourself? That's too troublesome. If you register it yourself, even if it is established, it will only be a shell company. You have to find an office location, hire people, and employ the corresponding film shooting personnel. Instead of that, you might as well directly acquire one. Everything is ready-made." Johnson opened his briefcase, took out a report from it, handed it to Lemon, and said, "Every year a large number of film companies are established in Hollywood, and every year a large number of production companies face bankruptcy due to poor management or other problems. But in any case, their existence means that there is no problem with the initial internal operation. As long as you take over and make arrangements, it will definitely be more convenient and easier than setting up a new company. Indeed, such an acquisition is indeed very convenient." Lemon thought about it, looked at the report, and asked, "What are the data on it?" "Some good production companies. I collected information. You can refer to it." As an in-depth partner in the industry, CAA knows everything about the establishment and closure of film companies, and even which company has plans to shoot and release new films. Besides, these are not industry secrets, and you can find out with a little effort. It's just some basic information in the industry. Lemon flipped through the file report and looked at the information carefully. It roughly lists some of the past operating information of some production companies. For example, what kind of film production they have participated in, and what works they have released. There are also market valuations of these companies and analysis of the probability of acquisition. After looking for a while, a production company called Rodrine Entertainment caught Lemon's attention. This company was founded in 1998. It has no external debt, and has produced several low-cost offline movies, that is, movies that only sell discs or videotapes, not theaters. It has some production experience, but perhaps because the profit-making means are too single, the boss of this company has the idea of selling the company. This phenomenon is normal. Companies that go offline are using time to exchange very meager profits to maintain expenses. For example, if a $100,000 movie is distributed through videotapes and DVDs, if the performance is average, it will probably take more than half a year to recover the investment, and then the rest of the time is pure profit. Basically, in the end, you can only make a few $100,000 a year. If you don't pay attention or the market is not good, you can only make less or lose money. I'm afraid that this is also the case. The investor who wants to make a lot of money in the film company will be discouraged and want to sell the company. Lyman didn't pay much attention to it. He just saw that the company had experience in film production and the company's finances were also healthy. These points were enough to make him excited, not to mention that the company already had the intention to sell, so it wouldn't be that troublesome to take over. I think this company is better, Johnson. Please help me contact them in the next few days and negotiate a price. This one? Okay, I'll follow up immediately. Chapter 238 Film Company, Subscription Recommendation. The founder of Rodrian Films is David Rodrian White, a Mexican, but he has never been to Mexico, even though it is next door. He only went to high school because his family was not well off, and he had too many brothers and sisters, so he was barely supported by social welfare. He is the third of 6 brothers and sisters. After entering society, he is willing to work hard. Perhaps he was used to living in poverty and worked hard. He first worked as a laborer and later went to work in auto repair. After slowly accumulating some experience, he partnered with others to open his own auto repair shop. It is said that the United States is a country on cars, which is true, but it is not true to say how much money can be made by opening an auto repair shop. Anyway, he did not make much money, but he was also considered a middle class. His career never improved, and he was hanging in the middle. By chance, he saw the news of Titanic in the newspaper. That year was the end of 1997, and the film industry staged a big ship miracle. In 1998, he ran from Chicago to Los Angeles, and then inexplicably crossed over and set up a film and television production company called Rodrian. He didn't have much education and didn't understand the film industry at all, but that didn't stop him from thinking that making movies could make a lot of money. So at the beginning, he encountered many obstacles. He didn't know that after making a movie, there would still be theaters that wouldn't show it, and he didn't know what the distribution channels were. But he was very resilient, and he tried to find out if he didn't know. He took people to contact various theaters, but failed. He turned to the videotape market as a second choice, and slowly, it seemed that he succeeded. His movies had a chance to make money. In the first year, he made $130,000, but because of the internal personnel operation of the company, he lost $50,000. In the second year, he finally made a profit. Not much, only $200,000. But it made him see the light. In the third, fourth, and fifth years, his film career slowly improved. He also felt that he had accumulated enough experience, so he was full of enthusiasm to prepare to make a theater movie. This time, he spent most of his family's money, a full $1.5 million, on filming. Unfortunately, like raindrops flowing into the sea, there was no sound after the release. A week later, the theater representative notified them to withdraw the film. In the end, this highly anticipated film only earned $500,000 box office, which was a heavy loss compared to the cost. This failure seemed to take away David Rodrian White's dream of film, or rather, his dream of film should have been awakened long ago. Disheartened, selling the company was his only plan. He didn't want to persist any longer. He was 45 years old, and no longer young. So, as long as the price was right, it didn't matter who the film company was given to. He just wanted to leave as soon as possible. Johnson contacted him under such circumstances, and the two parties hit it off. Subsequently, Lyman found an accounting firm to calculate the company's financial situation and assess the acquisition value. There were many things to be valued, from small things like tables, chairs, and sofas inside the film company to large things like those film copyrights that Rodrian believed still had some value, as well as related business relationships. After 3 days of comprehensive asset analysis, the accounting firm gave a value of about $3 million for the company. After 6 years of operation, he only earned $3 million, which was not as good as opening a car repair shop. Of course, Rodriguez accepted this result. The acquisition conditions were determined. That is, Lyman would pay $3 million to acquire the company in full at one time. The subsequent negotiations went more smoothly. Rodriguez was eager to get rid of it and did not want to argue about anything. Under the witness of the relevant lawyers, he signed the transfer contract neatly. So far, he got $3 million, and Lyman got 100% of the shares of Rodriguez Entertainment. The Shell studio in France continued to be affiliated with Europa Films, and the finances of both parties were independent of each other. On October 29th, the 6th floor of a business building near Warner Studios in Los Angeles was the headquarters of the original Rodriguez Entertainment. Inside the floor, the employees were sitting in their seats, and everyone's eyes were filled with some worry. They all knew that their boss was going to sell the company, and they might lose their jobs at some point. In this situation, everyone was not interested in work, and all they discussed were employment issues. Do you know who is going to buy it? I don't know. The boss didn't tell me. How can I know? God bless you. I don't want to lose this job. Me too. I'll accept a pay cut. Unfortunately, the employees' expectations were useless. The world of capital has always been cruel, and Lyman never thought of inheriting the company intact. According to his idea, the company must lay off a group of employees, such as the finance department and the human resources department. He didn't have much time to take care of the finance, and he wasn't good at it at all, with cumbersome expense calculations and even more complicated taxes. This is the United States, and from birth to death, we cannot do without various taxes. Therefore, he directly planned to hire those mainstream accounting firms to help take care of this area. They must be familiar with all kinds of reasonable tax avoidance, and then hand over the audit to another accounting firm, and check and supervise each other. Then, the company's finance department would not need too many people. There is also the personnel department. As an outsider, he is not clear about the personnel relations inside, so he simply handles it together. As for the remaining production employees, they will not be moved for the time being, but those who are incompetent will definitely be laid off slowly. In a word, those who are capable will be promoted, and those who are not competent will be demoted. After signing the contract, Johnson took some CAA people to temporarily manage the daily operations of the company and lay off employees. Some people left, and some stayed. Lyman did not interfere too much. Except for those who were laid off, the job changes were not big, and directly raised the salary by 15% on the original basis to stabilize people's hearts. Seeing the gradual transition, the original Rodriguez Films was officially renamed Firefly Films, and the company logo was specially designed by someone, which is a firefly emitting a faint light, and below it is a line of company names. The color of the entire logo is very soft, with a comic style, which looks vivid and full of vitality. After 2 years of preparation, Lyman finally had the confidence to take this step. Whether it was ambition, professionalism, or the sense of solidity and foundation brought by success, no matter what, on October 30th, 2003, the Firefly Film Company began its journey. Chapter 239, a general subscription recommendation. Is this your company? James Wan stood at the door, looking at the metal nameplate above, and said with interest, "Yes, let me show you around." Lyman patted his shoulder, and took him inside. After a round, the two sat on the sofa to rest. Seeing James Wan still looking at the layout around him, Lyman was thinking about how Firefly Films should grow and develop. Just the day before yesterday, after the company changed hands, Lyman entrusted Johnson to take a copy of his ID card and other materials, to go to the Commerce Bureau to handle the formalities. The whole process only cost $700 US, $200 US of which was paid to the California government as taxes. After obtaining the company license, this film company should have made some substantial progress, with an office location, employees, and filming qualifications. It can be said that everything is ready, and it only lacks a suitable project to practice. After James Wan's interest died down, he suddenly said excitedly, "By the way, Lyman, Someone from Universal came to me today and said they want me to make a movie. They also said they would pay me $5 million. Lemon was certainly not surprised by this, and he estimated that Universal would not be the last film company to invite him. After he was happy for a while, Lemon asked, "When? I want you to join my film company, are you willing? Then I'll make a movie." James Wan hesitated. "What will happen?" Lemon smiled and said, "Not very good. If you join, you will definitely give priority to the company's projects, and you will also turn down Universal's film invitations if there is no suitable schedule. Of course, if you don't want to, forget it. I won't force you. I just have this idea." James Wan was silent for a while before asking, "Will you still be free?" Lemon did not hide it and told the truth. Compared to working alone and joining a company, the former is definitely more free. James Wan was silent again and nodded after a long while. It was obvious that he had gone through a great mental struggle. "Okay, I'll join. I'll talk to my agent tomorrow and ask him to help me turn down those invitations." Lemon found it very interesting and teased him deliberately. "That's $5 million in salary. I'm not necessarily that generous." After once Aaron figured it out, he was not so shy and said quite straightforwardly, "It was you who gave me the opportunity at that time and let me be the assistant director of Bad Guys. Later, you helped me to talk to Europa Films and promoted the establishment of my film project. Now you have something to do. How can I not help? Besides, I'm already very happy that I can embark on the path of being a director. I will always remember your help." Haha. Lemon was a little happy after hearing this. How long have you been a director? Do you trust me so much?" Once Aaron also laughed and said, "Of course, I don't know who treats me well and who doesn't. It's right to be loyal and grateful, but there are some things that you can't wrong yourself too much. Otherwise one day you will be sold out, and you will still help count the money foolishly." Lemon patted his shoulder and said quite solemnly. Once Aaron rubbed his hands, laughed, but said nothing. Lemon said, "I plan to shoot the sequel of Saw, and you will still be the director. I will find someone to help you open a personal studio, and then register it with me. The two parties will jointly finance the filming, and the salary will be directly included in the box office share. I will invest too." James Wan shook his head and said, "Lemon, I know you are good to me, but I'm still a newcomer. It is already very good to get a share. It would be not so good if I can also participate in the offline profit sharing of the investors. Also, you trust me so much that I'm a little worried. What if the movie loses money and you still have to share money with me? Have you considered the risks involved? Will it fail? With the foundation of the first film, are you still afraid that the market will not recognize it? Also, do you think you will be a small director all your life? Look at me. I was not confident at the beginning, afraid of this and that, but I got through it. As for investment, do you want to work for others all your life? Let's not talk about me. Look at Luc Besson of Europa Films. He is also a director. How good is it to start a company now?" Lemon continued, "This is America. You and I are both outsiders. If you don't have a certain social status, fame, or wealth, you still remember how people discriminate against you. You are still young, so why are you less motivated than me? What's wrong with investing? I don't think it's surprising that you can open a film company like me in the future. If you want to be rich, you have to work hard." In short, after a lot of words, the central idea is, everyone works hard, gets rich together, and reaches the pinnacle of being a director. Such brainwashing eloquence is not something that a young man like James Wan can resist. He blushed and clenched his fists. It was obvious that he was touched by what he said. In fact, Lemon had planned to cooperate in this way from the beginning. The two parties were equal in status, and the investment was determined by each party, just like a joint development project. The thing about favors is that they can't stand temptation the most. If Lemon really just asked for it, which director would really be willing to sign a contract to sell himself? James Wan might be willing, but it was not what Lemon wanted. What he wants is for Firefly to grow steadily, not like DreamWorks, which is divided when problems arise, always calculating gains and losses, and finally ends up being dismembered and divided. So his idea is to be a cooperation platform similar to CAA. I can provide excellent directors and excellent projects, and the distribution channels can still be handed over to Europa Films, Paramount Pictures or other powerful companies. Take all the production rights, or take them in cooperation. Because of various external reasons, the distribution rights may not be able to be done well, even if you have money, so you should give them up, and focus on project development. Not to mention becoming an industry overlord. Being able to make films independently is also good. Then someone may ask, what is the difference between this and opening a studio? Of course there is a difference. As a producer, at least you can own part of the copyright of the movie, and you have the opportunity to eat the subsequent offline operations, peripheral development, and character authorization. Unlike before, you can't participate at all, even if it is your own project. You have to give it up. There is also the box office profit. If it is a pure investment, no matter what, the share cannot be too high. However, independent production is different. You only need to sign a distribution agreement with the distribution company, and the remaining income, after deducting the theater chain, is almost all. For example, if a movie has a box office of 1 million and copyright operation of 1 million, the producer can get 350,000 box office and 650,000 copyright fees. If it is a pure investment, it is very conscientious to get 500,000 in general. This is the difference. Chapter 240 The First Project. Subscription Recommendation. November 1st, a new week. After James Wan Studio was officially affiliated with Firefly Films, Lyman also held the first management meeting of the new company. All department heads were present. It sounds scary, but there are only 4 of them. The publicity department, the production department, the marketing department, the distribution department, and then, that's it. The finance department is basically non-existent now, and there is no suitable person to replace the human resources department for the time being. Since it is a management meeting, Lyman will naturally attend, accompanied by James Wan and his agent Johnson. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the meeting officially began. Lyman sat at the top of the conference table, wearing a black suit. To his right was Johnson, who was also dressed in a formal suit and looked energetic. He was also temporarily taking over the administrative management position and enjoying another salary. Don't doubt it, this is very common in Hollywood. One of the partners of Brad Pitt's Plan B film company is his agent at CAA. People like Johnson, who have qualifications, can mobilize a lot of resources behind them, and their status is not bad. Then it was James Wan, who sat to the left of Lyman. After all, the main topic of today's meeting was the development of Saw. Hello, everyone. I'm Lyman Last. I'm the new boss of this company. Next, the company will shoot a movie soon, with an investment of 15 million. It's the sequel to the popular Saw. In the conference room, the employees who were originally a little frightened by layoffs breathed a sigh of relief after hearing these words. The most feared thing for a production company is that there is no production plan. If there is nothing to do, they will always think of something. Now that there are specific goals and tasks, the risk of layoffs is undoubtedly reduced a lot. Then there are the movie projects. They have also heard about the box office results of Saw and know that this movie is a big hit. If a sequel is produced, it will at least be more stable and less risky than the original project. Next, Johnson began to announce the focus of the project development work. Anyway, everything is paved around Saw 2. Kevin Gasco, the head of the production department, listened carefully. Things like writing a project plan and setting up a filming team would be what he would do in the future. It would also be a test. I understand. After listening to Johnson's words, Kevin Gasco, a middle-aged white man, nodded and said, "Wait, I'll make a plan." "Okay, I'll wait for your news." After the meeting, Lyman took Johnson and James Wan to the office again. Johnson first asked, for the sequel, in addition to the role of Jigsaw, how will you cast other actors? Lyman looked at James Wan. James Wan immediately said, I have been writing the script with Rain over these 2 days. The main plot is still based on the punishment test, and the scene is not too big, but there will be more scenes to choose from. This time I want to add more open outdoor spaces. As for the actors, they can be suitable. Try to choose those who are not too famous to reduce the salary expenditure. After becoming an investor, the perspective of looking at problems is different, and I know how to save money actively. Well, it's feasible. CAA has many such actors. I will make a list for you when I go back. Then the cost of the whole play can be roughly controlled at about 12 million, leaving a budget space of 3 million, which is also very reasonable. Johnson has good experience in cost and casting. After all, he does this. After following Lyman for 2 years, he has participated in more projects and his nose has become more sensitive. Then sign a contract with J.K. Simmons first, and then talk about the subsequent actors. Oh, by the way, I will talk to Luc Besson first, and the overseas distribution channels still depend on them. Lyman said, and immediately took out his mobile phone. Hello, Mr. Luc Besson. Yes, for the sequel, I hope that your company will be responsible for the overseas distribution. Well, I opened a film company myself, and this is the first project of our company. Okay, no problem. I will send someone to give you the detailed project planning. That's it, bye. After hanging up the phone, Lyman was still a little dazed. Originally, he thought that Europa Films might have a lot of opinions about this independent production. After all, he was starting his own business, which was different from before. But he didn't expect that Luc Besson was not surprised at all, as if he had a premonition that it would happen. It can only be said that this step will happen sooner or later. From the moment Lyman refused to join Europa Films, Luc Besson realized something. Lyman is like a sharp blade out of his sheath, showing his edge and being very measured. After so many collaborations, Luc Besson can be seen. This person will never be willing to be inferior to others, very similar to him. Well, Luc Besson's words of flattery are still very powerful. Johnson on the side also sighed in his heart. As an agent, he is actually quite afraid that his clients are too opinionated. In that case, wouldn't he appear to be useless? Moreover, if the goal is too strong, there is another point that is very annoying. Many times, he has no room to intervene. However, it was not bad. At least he had made it. Now that Lyman had established a film company, he actually had his own plans. Who would be willing to be an agent for life? If he was a partner of CAA like Kevin Hoween and had shares, that would be fine. But, that was just a thought. The game between the top executives of the company was really terrible. Lyman was very satisfied with Johnson, and even planned to pull him into his camp. Temporarily taking over administrative management was his first step to test him. Based on the contact over the past 2 years, Lyman found that this guy was definitely a person with strong communication skills, eloquent and careful. Usually, he was very responsible in negotiating a deal, planning his itinerary, and even driving him to and from work. He never said he was late or the negotiation was not going well. Moreover, he had a lot of experience in the crew. Many times, except for Ryan, he was the one who had the most arguments with the third-party guarantee agency. Those picky guarantee representatives could be persuaded. Would his eloquence and communication skills be poor? Besides, he has CAA behind him. After so many years of working in the industry, he must have some internal connections. CAA has the largest number of film and television practitioners in Hollywood, and sometimes he often has to deal with these people. According to this logic, perhaps his relationship with some directors and even excellent producers is not too bad. In this way, with Johnson as an insider, many CAA resources can also be used by Firefly Films. It is even possible to dig up good projects. Moreover, with this identity of CAA, some things will be much simpler, such as setting up a crew. Chapter 241, A Blacksmith Must Be Strong Himself. Please subscribe and recommend. Hollywood, Paramount Pictures headquarters. Shirley Lansing looked at the project planning documents sent by Firefly Films on the table and pondered for a moment. Andrew David, her trusted subordinate sitting opposite her and in charge of the marketing department, flipped through the documents with great interest. This project is very feasible, and the story also takes over the part that the audience is more interested in. Some people now call Jigsaw the second Hannibal, two perverts with antisocial personalities, which is really interesting. Andrew David introduced it very easily after reading the attached script summary. The same ingenious killing mechanism has almost become a kind of symbol of Jigsaw. President James Wan is really good. Such excellent ideas are extremely suitable for sequel adaptation. Following this template, it should not be a problem to shoot several films. Shirley Lansing continued, well, I heard Lyman mention it. He said that, if the effect is good and the audience can accept it, they can keep shooting it, and the investment will not increase like Harry Potter and 007. After all, Jigsaw is just a symbol. At worst, someone else can play the role. This is not a problem. What about the distribution mentioned above? Of course I'm willing to, but Shirley Lansing said calmly, forget about other things. The investment in this project will cost at least more than 10 million, but there is no intention for us to participate in the investment. Do you know? I know. Andrew David talked about something seemingly unrelated. I heard that the film company founded by Lyman will fully contract the production of this film, and CAA is also willing to support it. Let them support it. They don't have the ability to distribute it in theaters, and even if they make it, it will rot in their hands. It's not that simple. You know, Warner has been very close to Lyman recently. Europa Films has also agreed to be responsible for the overseas distribution of the film. Kevin Hoween even took Lyman to meet Berry Meir in person. Shirley Lansing's face changed slightly, and she looked at Andrew David. What does CAA want to do? What else can they think of? Aren't they clear about their purpose? Over the years, they have launched package services and frequently wooed directors. Aren't they all expanding their influence in the circle? They have the manpower and the funds. If it weren't for the law, antitrust law, they would have been dissatisfied with the service commission and turned to the film and television production business. But even so, they have participated in the production of movies openly and secretly. Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and even the American TV series in recent years. Lyman is just the next focus. Who doesn't know CAA's wolfish ambitions? Would a company that controls so many artist resources be satisfied with the role of an intermediary service? Of course, as long as they don't really take that step, it doesn't matter. Without the ability to distribute, everything is in vain. None of the 6 Hollywood studios are fools. The pie has already been divided up. Who would allow anyone to come in? It's just a small trick to struggle. As she said this, Shirley Lansing sighed. I really want to give them a hard time. Look at the conditions he offered. A 25% distribution commission, including the publicity and distribution costs, is simply harsh. Such an attitude clearly shows that he is fearless. Of course he is fearless. As David mentioned, if Paramount didn't agree, he would turn around and throw himself into the arms of Warner. If it weren't for the pleasant cooperation in the past, he would have wanted to directly bid to the major film companies in order to maximize profits. Besides, giving up 25% of the profits directly in exchange for the distribution channels and media resources that Paramount has already managed is already very cost effective. It's not an exaggeration to say that he can make money without doing anything. Even if we hold him back, it won't help. Spielberg and Universal had a falling out over the differences in interests over Jaws, and then they turned to us and collaborated on the Indiana Jones series. Later, didn't Universal take the initiative to lower its stance? Andrew David was very open-minded about this matter. He advised, anyway, he has CAA behind him, so he must have the capital to make movies. Why should we push away this piece of meat that is delivered to our door? If we don't accept it, it will only make him feel cold, so why bother? Shirley Lansing remained silent. Of course she knew this truth, but she didn't want to think about it. You know, in order to push him to the top, she took the initiative to work with CAA to publicize the Oscars and let him take the limelight. But now, they turned against each other. How could such a fact make her feel refreshed? However, if Andrew David knew what she was thinking at this moment, he would definitely think Shirley Lansing was hypocritical. Don't think about how much benefit Paramount has earned from Lyman in the past 2 years of cooperation. Besides, he didn't owe anything. It was a normal business cooperation, but you have to think about it and feel unbalanced. Just like Universal back then, they always felt that they had done a favor to Steven Spielberg, so they wanted him to continue working for a low salary. But obviously, Lyman, like Spielberg, is not a fool, and they both want to get what they deserve. It's because the starting point is too low and the gap is too big. Saw has been screened for 23 days, and the cumulative box office in North America is 140 million. I believe that it will be almost the end after 150 million. In the overseas market, according to the news released by Europa Films, it has earned 70 million box office, so the total is over 200 million. With an investment of 10 million and a box office of more than 200 million, the audience base must be good. If the quality of this project is not too bad, our work in charge of distribution is likely to make a profit. Andrew David said again. Okay, I know. You go out first. I will let the marketing department approve the project as soon as possible. Shirley Lansing probably figured it out. She is not stupid. Saw has been a great success, so making a sequel is almost a sure win. Moreover, judging from his attitude, it is estimated that Lyman will definitely make this sequel independently. If Paramount is willing to cooperate, then they can continue to maintain the good tacit understanding in the past. The only difference may be that the profit sharing results have changed a little, and Lyman will take the lion's share. If they are not willing, then other companies will take over. Anyway, he does not plan to be small anymore. Thinking of this, Shirley Lansing secretly planned. It seems that I still need to cultivate my own team and improve the production level of the company. If you rely on the mountain will fall, and if you rely on the water will flow. Only being strong alone is the eternal truth. Chapter 242 George's Sincerity, Subscription Recommendation. I'm very sorry for not being able to pick you up at the airport. In the office of Firefly Pictures, Lyman took the initiative to open his arms and hug George, who came from afar, and said, "The company is just being established, and there are too many things to deal with." George and Lyman separated, looked at the assistant secretary who put the coffee down, and turned to leave, and joked, "You look a bit like the boss of the company." Lyman smiled. "What boss? The kind who always does things? But it seems that you enjoy it." Lyman picked up the coffee and took a sip and asked in a relaxed tone, "How about coming to my company? You can choose any position you want." George had a bitter face. "Lyman, don't make fun of me. You know, if I go to work in your company, Luc Besson will scold me to death when I return to France." Lyman chuckled and skipped the topic. "I heard that Europa Films has made another big move and accepted financing from Wall Street. I believe the strength of your company has increased significantly." Hearing this, George was somewhat dissatisfied. This is just a small number of shareholders cashing out and leaving. It was not a decision made by Luc Besson. Right now, Europa Films' film business is doing well, which attracted a group of hungry wolves. Besides, those people on Wall Street are not easy to deal with. Who knows what the future will be like? After saying this, George couldn't help but glance at Lyman and felt infinite emotion in his heart. 2 years ago, Lyman was still a fledgling grassroots director. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, he quickly rose to fame in France and the United States, and now he has become the boss of an independent film company. To be honest, when he heard the news from Luc Besson, he was quite surprised. Thinking about it, he also watched Lyman develop all the way, but he still didn't expect him to get to this point. Or rather, this step came much earlier than expected. As for switching to his company, George never thought about it. You have to know that he has become the vice president of the distribution department of Europa Films. Not to mention that Europa Films is a mature film company, and its production and distribution capabilities are definitely far behind those of the 6 major Hollywood companies. But in France and even in the entire European film industry, their company's influence is absolutely strong, which is not comparable to third-rate film companies like Firefly. Moreover, he himself has some grudges in his heart. From the previous equal cooperation relationship, it has become a superior subordinate relationship, especially the two of them have a lot of contact and good friendship. Just thinking about it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, let alone becoming a reality. George drank his coffee silently, stopped thinking about it, and began to explain the purpose of today's visit. "Lyman, I have brought the overseas distribution terms of the sequel to Saw. You can take a look first. In fact, there is nothing good to see, roughly the same as discussed. Europa Films is responsible for promoting the film to the overseas market. In return, they will extract 20% of the box office profits of the film, not the total box office, but the income, after deducting the theaters, and the publicity and distribution costs, will be shared equally. In addition, Europa Films will take 30% of the revenue from offline operations and copyright peripherals. This is also the proportion taken by general distributors. Well, I will ask the legal department to stamp and sign it later. After confirming that it was correct, Lyman said, "Then take a look at this." George said, and took out another document from his briefcase. "What is this?" Lyman took it with some doubts. "We, Europa Films, want to sign a letter of intent for cooperation with your company, and the time is set for 3 years. During these 3 years, all the film projects produced by your company will be distributed overseas by Europa Films. Of course, for this, we have given very favorable conditions and our sincerity. You can take a look." After reading it carefully, Lyman finally knew what Europa Films was thinking. In fact, Europa Films felt that Lyman's personal ability was good, and the films he participated in producing were always profitable, so they wanted to sign a 3-year letter of intent for cooperation and bind their distribution business. Anyway, Firefly Pictures did not have the ability to distribute independently. Then, the conditions they gave were roughly the same as today's distribution terms, which also charged 20% of the profit, and each party would bear half of the publicity and distribution costs. Of course, in order to successfully reach a cooperation, they not only made requests, but also showed their sincerity. That is, in the past 3 years, Firefly Pictures has the right to participate in the investment of Europa Films film projects, which is roughly 15% of the total investment share, and only enjoys the same box office revenue, and does not participate in the copyright operation. Perhaps someone will ask, the price given by the two parties is inconsistent. In fact, there is nothing to say, the strength is not equal, isn't it the condition? Firefly Pictures does not have the distribution rights, and Europa Pictures has mature distribution channels. It's that simple. Let's give another example. If Lyman took this letter of intent to negotiate with Warner or even Paramount Pictures, it would be impossible to reach an agreement. There is no need for them to give you any visible long-term investment share. Perhaps this is also because in the eyes of Europa Pictures, the value contained in Lyman is more worthy of their bet. The two have cooperated so many times, and they are trustworthy and worth increasing their efforts to win over. As for Lyman, he would definitely be willing to do so. Not to mention the investment share, Europa Films has no intention of asking for too much. It is a relatively conscientious distribution commission in the industry. You know, some international distributors such as the 6 major Hollywood companies can ask for 40% of the film industry's profits at the highest bid, but this is generally their own project, which dilutes the profits. But no matter what, Europa Films did come to cooperate with sincerity. Afterwards, Lyman took the letter of intent and signed the contract smoothly under the witness of the relevant lawyers. After signing the contract, George did not stay for long and left soon. After the two rose to strategic partners, Europa Films did not hide it and quickly spread the news. Doing so can not only stabilize the hearts of the company's major shareholders, but also have a positive effect on the stock, which is really killing 2 birds with 1 stone. For a while, Lyman's Firefly Films also caught the eyes of many people in the circle. In their view, a film company with production capabilities is already excellent, not to mention the overseas channels of Europa Films. Such a company is full of potential. Lyman, someone wants to see you. One day, Lyman was handling business at the company when his agent Johnson suddenly called. Who is it? Legendary Pictures chairman Thomas Tull. Why does he want to see me? Chapter 243 Legendary Pictures. Subscription recommendation. Legendary Pictures is no stranger to everyone. It is the creator of the so-called monster universe, Godzilla, King Kong, Skull Island, and Godzilla 2. Before that, it was just a newly established production company. The company's founder, Thomas Tull, had no idea how to make a movie. He was originally a financier in the field of private equity finance. Before he started a film company, he was the CEO of Convex, a venture capital company focusing on the media and entertainment fields. At a dinner party by chance, an executive of MGM complained to him about the current difficulties in film financing. Therefore, the sensitive Tull came up with the idea of using private equity to intervene in film investment. After several years of preparation, Thomas Tull convinced the vampires of Wall Street with his excellent eloquence. After raising $500 million from the private equity firm behind them, he established Legendary Entertainment Pictures. This is also the first film production company of its kind directly supported by private shareholders and hedge fund investors on Wall Street. So, he is not short of money, and he has a large amount of liquid funds in his hands. But what does he lack? Projects that make money. As I said earlier, he doesn't know how to make movies, and he has never thought about independent production. He is a capital player, so it doesn't matter whether he has the ability to produce or not. According to his idea, he only needs to cooperate with some excellent production companies. He will invest, the other party will produce movies, and both parties will share the profits. Isn't it possible for everyone to make money? Mutual benefit and win-win. And he really did it. If Firefly Pictures did not appear in this time and space, Thomas Tull would have joined Warner Pictures and the two parties would jointly sign a 7-year cooperation agreement, which stipulates that in the next 7 years, the two parties will jointly invest and produce 40 film and television works. After the two parties joined forces, the first masterpiece they chose to cooperate was Batman Begins. Speaking of which, Barry Meir is also an old fox. He knows that the board of directors is always worried and unwilling to establish a project, so he simply finds a sucker to come and let them invest money and bear the greatest production risk, while they just need to lie down and make money. In this way, the board of directors has no reason to stop the development of the Batman project. After the two sides agreed, Legendary Pictures bore most of the filming funds, but the distribution rights and film copyrights were completely held in the hands of Warner. Except for the box office and part of the offline income that belonged to Legendary Pictures, they got nothing. According to incomplete statistics, the profit of Batman Begins is almost more than $400 million. All peripheral income is added up. Warner directly took more than $300 million, making a lot of money, and Legendary also made nearly $100 million. But if you really compare them, it is the one that paid the most, took the greatest risk, and got the least. But Thomas Tull didn't say anything and chose to continue the cooperation after all. The contract was signed. After that, in the cooperation with Warner for so many years, a series of films such as 300 Spartans, The Hangover, Watchmen and Inception were produced, which all achieved box office of more than $100 million in North America, but they also lost money. Productions such as Water Spirit and Don't Mess with the Ants also lost a lot of money. Moreover, what Thomas Tull was dissatisfied with was that Warner had always been very harsh in its attitude towards Legendary Pictures. Not only was the list of cooperative films given only after screening, but the absolutely high quality and risk-free projects were held tightly by Warner and were not given any chances, such as Harry Potter. And Warner was unwilling to help Legendary Pictures establish its own production department. From then on, Thomas Tull knew that Warner, as one of the 6 old brands, did not want Legendary Pictures to become its competitor. They hoped that Legendary Pictures would remain silent forever and just throw money out. As a result, the contradictions between the two parties were accumulated from the beginning and then gradually worsened. After the contract expired, Legendary Pictures immediately invested in Universal Pictures. But all crows are black, and Universal is not a good bird. After Thomas Tull gave up, he turned around and was acquired by Wanda Group, yes, Leo Wang, for $3.5 billion. Cooperating with Universal, it was losing money every year, and Wall Street investors were very dissatisfied and could only cash out and leave. But, he wants to see me? Why? Lemon frowned slightly after receiving the call. Of course he knew Legendary Pictures, but he didn't know who Thomas Tull was. And who would pay attention to the president of a film company? I don't know much. I'm just responsible for passing on the message. He has called at least 3 times to invite him. Johnson answered on the phone. Lemon thought for a long time, but he couldn't figure out what he had to talk about with the boss of Legendary Pictures, but he didn't refuse. In the afternoon, after the two sides agreed, Lemon drove to a private club on the beach in Santa Monica. This meeting was very grand. Mr. Lemon, please come this way. Mr. Tull is waiting for you inside." As soon as he entered the club, a beautiful blonde girl in a foreman's professional suit came up to greet him. Lemon followed her, turned left and right, and came to a brown door. The girl knocked on the door, and the two went in. "Mr. Tull, the guests are here." There was a small wooden table in the room, surrounded by sofas. Thomas Tull smiled at Lemon and nodded. The foreman girl withdrew. "Hello, Mr. Lemon." Thomas Tull stood up and took the initiative to extend his hand. Lemon shook it and responded. The two sat down facing each other again. This is one of the most authentic French restaurants in Los Angeles. Even the ingredients are airlifted from France. You can try it later. "Mr. Tull is thoughtful," Lemon said indifferently. Thomas Tull probably knew his intentions, and the other party didn't appreciate it. But he didn't mind, and asked the waiter outside to bring a box of cigars. He took the scissors, cut the cigar along the wrapper, and handed it to Lemon. "Would you like one?" This time Lemon didn't refuse. For him, delicious food is good, but his pursuit of food has never been high. It's enough to fill his stomach and taste good. In fact, most directors are like this. After all, what delicious food can the crew have during the filming? He will feel good to eat fast food. The smoke gradually rose, and the mellow aroma of the cigar was further released. To be honest, Lemon is now a little curious about why the other party came to him. If you say that the other party is just trying to make friends, there is no need to do so. If he is so humble, it would be strange if he has nothing to do. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244, Vision, added for the helmsman who doesn't understand during the day. Legendary Pictures reached a strategic partnership with Warner Bros. In 2005, and was also Warner Bros.' first non-subsidiary in-depth partner. However, that was all later. Now, Thomas Tull has just received funding from Wall Street, and is preparing to start a business with great fanfare. And just in the past, the news revealed by Europa Films made him pay attention to Firefly Films. Under normal circumstances, he would not pay attention to such a newly established small company, but he was repeatedly frustrated when he contacted Universal, Paramount, Disney, Warner and other first-line manufacturers. At this time, he realized that with his little capital, others would not look down on him at all. Don't ask why Warner Brothers didn't like it either, because there was really no need. Why share profits with outsiders? Are the shareholders behind Warner Brothers not strong enough, or are the people on Wall Street really powerful? Barry Meir also considered for a long time before finally accepting Legendary, and it was a bit of a pitfall. After figuring it out, Thomas Tull didn't give up. While he continued to contact these manufacturers, he lowered his sights and looked for those mid and lower level film production companies. For example, Lionsgate, Miramax, New Line Cinema, etc. But most of the problems are the same. Foreign capital forces like Lionsgate will definitely not talk about cooperation, and Miramax, which focuses on low-cost production and picks its own advantages, Oscar-operated and profitable film companies, does not need any capital injection. They run very well on their own. As for New Line, the same is true. The company's prospects have been good in the past 2 years, and there is no need to absorb funds to share risks. After choosing and choosing, Thomas Tull was worried. The ones he liked, others didn't like him, and the ones he didn't like, there was definitely no hope. After all, he had never considered film projects with budgets of hundreds of thousands or millions. Seeing that those big guys were unwilling to play with him, he set his sights on another company, Firefly Pictures. After some investigation, he became more determined. First of all, the distribution channels are very guaranteed. Europa Pictures has overseas channels and has signed a 3-year long-term cooperation plan. It is also easier to deal with domestically, and it is not difficult to be an agent for distribution. Secondly, the company has great potential. The first project announced is a weapon for harvesting the box office market during this period, the sequel to Saw. Moreover, Lemon's past performance is also very impressive. He has never failed, and his profits are very impressive. The return ratio is rare in the industry. Then there is a clear equity division, and it is newly established. If you want to invest, you don't need to argue too much. Originally, when he contacted Universal, he ran for more than a month, from the marketing department to the distribution department, and then to the production department, but he didn't see a person who really had the decision-making power. The power division within the company was really intertwined. In summary, Thomas Tull felt that this might be an opportunity. After all, he had not been involved in too many film productions and had no experience. Subconsciously, he liked to look for those with achievements and market guarantees. Regardless of how much money he could make, at least he could not let the investment go to waste, right? Perhaps he felt that the groundwork had been laid, and Thomas Tull smiled and said, "I came here today to sincerely seek cooperation with you. A win-win cooperation for both of us." Lyman looked at him in surprise, but then he thought about it, and it seemed that this was the case. In the circle, what else could the bosses of two film companies who did not know each other talk about except cooperation? Really? Can you briefly tell me what kind of win-win cooperation it is? Lyman looked like he was listening attentively. "I have idle funds in my hands, and you have projects in your hands. Don't you want to develop a first-line big production?" Lyman did not speak, but glanced at Thomas Tull, and then looked at the cigar box in his hand with interest, as if he was appreciating the texture and packaging on it. Thomas Tull knew that he was being asked to reveal his bargaining chips, so he said without hesitation, "I can invest in your company's projects. 500 million or 1 billion is fine. We at Legendary Pictures have sufficient capital, and many private equity funds on Wall Street are our allies. We will have a large amount of liquidity to regulate. I can guarantee that, as long as we cooperate, the global film market will be opened up to us. Even if you want to plan a blockbuster like Titanic, we can do it. In addition, we can state in advance, or even write it into the contract, that Legendary Pictures will not interfere with the filming of your company's projects. We are willing to give you the greatest production autonomy. In terms of distribution, you have the final say on who to cooperate with. We cannot participate in the film copyright, as long as the profit is shared." After all, it was all nonsense. Lyman was not unaware of the details of Legendary Pictures. Apart from some capital, they had nothing. What market? What cooperation? What non-interference in filming? It was almost all nonsense. Things that cannot be done in the first place are also boasted. You have channels. You have media resources. Do you have production capabilities? None. What's the point of talking about it? As for the preparation of a blockbuster, are there no conditions for the investment of funds? After the investment, can it be transferred at will? This did not mention the key points, and you still want to fool him. Haha. Mr. Thomas, our company has just been established, and the internal management is still a mess. Even if we have the intention, we can't take action. Lyman pretended to be worried and said, "Also, I also understand the situation of your company. Do you think there is a need for us to cooperate?" A rhetorical question directly hit. Legendary Pictures now looks very impressive on paper, with Wall Street and financial tycoons, and a lot of chips behind it. Unfortunately, it's useless. The film industry is not the financial industry. You can't come up with specific projects, nor can you be sure that the project can be made well or have profit prospects, and you don't have the strength to push the movie all the way to the theater after it is made. That's it. You don't have the ability to make money yourself, and if you only ask for cooperation, why choose you? Choose Warner, Paramount, and Universal. Isn't it better? This is also the reason why this guy has repeatedly hit a wall. The conditions are too poor. If people are just short of money, isn't it also a measure to mortgage to the bank, and they don't have to share so many benefits? Of course, our capital reserves are sufficient. I believe that if we cooperate, we can produce more and better film projects at the same time. Do you think that making movies will definitely make money? This is a big data problem. Generally speaking, if you invest in 20 movies with a cost of about 30 million, there is a high probability that you will make a profit. Well, it seems that he still has some experience and is not completely ignorant of the film market. Moreover, I think the total volume of the film market has been increasing in recent years. In the next 5 years, this situation may not change. The expansion of the market means that it can accept more movies to enter. Well, it is also very visionary. From this time, it can be foreseen that the market volume of Hollywood will continue to increase in the next few years, and it is prepared to make losses. It is really feasible to invest in a large number of film projects, replace vision with quantity, and maintain a total profit on income and expenditure. Then how do you think the film should be operated best? Make blockbusters. To be more precise, it is to operate a series of movies. Thomas Tull also understood that Lyman was testing him. Of course, this is normal. If you want to find someone to cooperate with, the other party will certainly look at your strength. Filming is risky, whether it is a small investment or a large investment. As long as the project fails, it is nothing more than a question of how much or how little the loss is. However, as long as a series of movies is successfully operated and a good market foundation is laid, these filming risks can be avoided with a high probability, thus forming a continuous money-making tool. I have analyzed Warner's Harry Potter series. So far, they have filmed a total of 2 films, and the third is still in production, but it has brought them more than $1 billion in profit income, or even more. The value of those peripheral copyrights will only increase with the growth of time. After listening, Lyman nodded subconsciously. The answers given by Thomas Tull to these 2 simple questions fully demonstrated his keen market sense. It is estimated that this is also the reason why Legendary Pictures has been able to rise since 2005 from a third-rate small company that followed Warner to being able to develop the monster universe, and the company's value has soared. For a film company in the media field, the vision of the helmsman really has a great influence. Why don't you come to us? You can choose any position you want. Lyman couldn't help but try to win him over. Just like George, it would be a pity if he didn't try to win over such industry talents. Well, I'm here to discuss cooperation. Thomas Tull said somewhat euphemistically, but he also rejected Lyman's solicitation in disguise. If it's about cooperation, we can talk about it later, when we have time. Lyman pretended to look at his watch, stood up and said, "It's getting late, and I have something to do in the company, so I'll leave first." As I said, Firefly Pictures didn't need any money, and it was impossible for Legendary Pictures to take advantage of it. Thomas Tull certainly heard the meaning of Lyman's words, but he was a person who had experienced great things after all, and he was rejected more than once or twice. He didn't get angry when he heard it, and politely asked Lyman to leave. There is a long way to go. Cooperation is not something that can be agreed upon in a short time. If we have time, we can talk about it again. Legendary Pictures is always sincere. This is definitely true. Well, I have no doubt that you have the idea of sincere cooperation. Then, let's talk next time. Lyman was also polite. In fact, this extra chapter should have been last month, but unfortunately, all the book friends who follow me know that my daily update volume is really not high. First of all, it is true that I don't have enough time to write. I have work during the day and can only write when I rest at night. Secondly, I must save drafts for extra chapters, but I don't have them. So, I have been procrastinating until now. It happens that I have a change in my job recently, and I'm a little freer than before, so I will come to pay off my debt. I hope all the book friends will support me. That's all. Chapter 245, I'm rich. Additional chapter for the helmsman who doesn't understand during the day. Saw has broken 160 million, a typical example of winning big with a small investment. Los Angeles Daily News just yesterday, Saw was announced to be withdrawn from the screen, exiting the market as a winner. Chicago Daily News James Wan, another shining new star. His first work can break 100 million. New York Morning Post, while Lyman was busy with the operation of the company and preparing for the filming of the sequel to Saw, the screening of Saw in the North American market finally came to an end. In fact, when it was screened for the 4th week, the downward trend was already obvious, with a single week box office of less than 10 million. However, this is normal. The screening cycle of cult films is generally short, as the viewing potential of the audience group is almost exhausted, and the number of theaters showing the film is gradually reduced. The withdrawal from the screen is a normal market choice. But there is no doubt that this movie is already a miracle. With a production cost of $10 million US, plus the director is still a pure newcomer, and the main actors are not particularly well known, it can still collect $162.3 million US in the box office in North America alone. Moreover, the overseas market that Europa Films is responsible for is also extremely smooth. It is certain that overseas distribution is absolutely profitable. The popularity and profit may not be as popular as in North America, but it does not seem to be particularly difficult to collect more than 100 million box office and make the global box office of Saw exceed 300 million. Because there are delays in various places, and except for France, other places are still 2 weeks behind. That is, they will not be released until October 25th, so the box office statistics are not completely accurate. The amazing performance of this movie in the market made many media happy to report it. This time, Paramount Pictures did not stuff money behind the scenes to operate. After all, the movie has been taken off the screen, so what is there to brag about? This is completely reported by the media on its own initiative, because it is very topical in itself. The movie has exceeded 100 million, and the director is actually a newcomer. Isn't such a news report eye-catching enough? The butler brought the last dish to the table. James Wan picked up his chopsticks and said, "Lyman, I'm going to buy an apartment in a few days. Do you have any good suggestions?" Well, at present, James Wan still rents a house with Rainava, and the house is in a mid-range community. Although the environment is not bad, it is definitely not good. The living environment in the United States depends entirely on how much money you can afford to live in. Just like Beverly Hills, why do so many rich people gather here? It's because there is a complete police station, fire management, and large hospitals in the community. The security and guard forces are very strong. As for those less high-end residential communities, there are burglary, gun extortion, and the crime rate is frighteningly high. Of course, Lemon has invited James Wan and Rainava to live with him. Anyway, his place is very large and there are many rooms, but they don't want to, and he can't force them. "Where do you want to move to?" Lemon asked. "I want to move to the Santa Monica community. A few days ago, Rainava and I went to see it. The surrounding facilities and community environment are very good. Why not move here? Isn't Beverly Hills better?" Hearing this, James Wan was a little embarrassed to say, "We don't have that much money. If we rent, it's okay, but we still want to buy a house so that we can feel at ease." No, with the market performance of Saw, James Wan should have money. Although his basic director salary is not high, only $500,000, but with such a good box office performance, Paramount Pictures will definitely give him a bonus share. Calculated, it will be at least 3 or 4 million. And Rainava, as a screenwriter and producer, can also get a salary of no less than $500,000. With this calculation, it shouldn't be difficult to buy a small apartment. However, Lemon immediately figured it out and asked with a smile, "Do you have any concerns? So you want to save some money?" James Wan nodded embarrassedly. "I have to take out some money for investment." Well, Lemon arranged the production of the sequel to Saw like this. James Wan, the director and producer, will receive a basic salary of $1.5 million plus an investment share of $1.5 million, accounting for 20% of the total production budget, and will participate in the box office share in the same proportion. The rest will be funded by Man Studios half and Firefly Pictures half. In the future, as James Wan's qualifications continue to rise, this investment ratio will definitely tilt more and more towards James Wan. Refer to Lemon's rising salary and investment share when he cooperated with Europa Films. But now, if it is only 20%, James Wan will also need to take out most of his savings. Thinking of this, Lemon suggested, "I still think it's better for you to live here. It just so happens that a friend of mine has a house next to mine. The house is very nice, a single family house with a yard, and the price is not expensive, about 20 million. You can pay a down payment first, and I will help advance some of it. Go through the house purchase procedures first, and you should be able to pay it off after the sequel is released." The so-called friend, of course, is Nicolas Cage. He is still good at financial management as always. Why not hoard houses in the United States? The luxury housing tax can make him lose money as long as the market is slightly bad. High-end housing prices in the United States are not very expensive, but the subsequent maintenance fees, housing taxes and inheritance taxes are pitfalls. In recent years, real estate has generally been rising, and Cage has made a lot of money. However, once housing prices fall, or the rot in his hands, Cage will go from a multi-millionaire to a billionaire in debt. As for James Wan, it is obvious that he doesn't want to trouble him too much, so he didn't say anything about helping to prepay the full amount. Although $20 million is nothing to Lemon now, Firefly Pictures still has more than $80 million on its books, not to mention that Man Studios' deposits have already exceeded $200 million. The former is his personal asset, and the latter is a joint asset with Ryan, and they can't be confused. However, Lemon has spare money. Anyway, the company's projects are gone except for the sequel to Saw, and there is no need for much money. Instead of keeping it in the bank and letting it depreciate, it is better to spend it on a reasonable place. First, it can do a favor to James Wan, and second, it can be regarded as helping Cage so that he doesn't lose too much money when the time comes. Now this guy has just joined National Treasure in a high-profile manner, and his net worth has reached $17 million plus 15% of the total North American box office share. It is the time for him to gradually move towards the peak of his acting career. Although he won't listen to the advice, it is good not to end up with the reputation of the king of bad movies in his previous life. Friends, help them if you can. Finally, after Lemon's earnest persuasion, James Wan finally made up his mind to buy a house in Beverly Hills. After Lemon called Cage, he also said that he would get it done in a few days. After the house purchase was settled, Lemon smiled and said, "In this way, we can be considered neighbors." Yeah, haha. James Wan nodded. He now respected Lemon and was full of hope for their future. At this time, he also asked expectantly, "Lemon, when can the sequel movie project start?" Lemon replied, "No hurry, we are still selecting the appropriate list of actors and crew members these days. It will probably take a week or two until the crew is ready." The two discussed the future filming of the movie while eating. Although James Wan has made a movie, he still lacks confidence in some areas. At least in terms of training actors, this guy still needs some experience. As for Ainava, he is also a talent, with good screenwriting ability. Many of the murder mechanisms and clues in Saw were his ideas. He is also down to earth and hardworking. He is also the right-hand man of James Wan. The relationship between the two has also been tested by time, from college to now. However, if he is asked to take on the responsibility of producer alone, his skills are still a little lacking, and he can only be a deputy and continue to learn. Ryan and Thomas, on the other hand, have gained a lot of experience in the crew after 2 years of filming, and have the ability to take charge of their own affairs. As for Ryan, you can try to hand over the marketing department of the company to him, and as for Thomas, this guy's not very ambitious. He just wants to do his photography well, and see if he can develop into the director of the photography and lighting team under the production department of the company in the future. Of course, all these wishes depend on whether the two are willing. If they are not willing, Lemon will definitely not force them. They, including George, are all good friends. Lemon also hopes that they can have better development. After dinner, James Wan left. This man is also a workaholic. He said he would go to CAA to help Johnson with actor reference and set up the crew. After taking a short nap, Lemon also rushed to the company. The impact of Saw is far from being confirmed by a box office figure. For example, some operations of peripheral copyrights. For example, licensing to some toy manufacturers, calendars, notebooks and other peripheral products. After the movie was a hit, Paramount Pictures also found those suitable manufacturers to make a profit from secondary copyright development. For example, if some texts and calendars are sold, Lemon can get a profit of 2 cents for every $1 sold. There are also TV stations and paid channels. The broadcasting rights of movies can also earn hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for each negotiation. The reason why Hollywood is keen on making blockbusters is that they are not afraid of box office failures. Unlike the mainland film market, where movies are supported by box office sales, the bulk of Hollywood's film profits still come from the offline market. For example, the DVD sales of Star Wars: The Force Awakens 2015 earned more than $130 million in North America. This disc will continue to sell. Think about how much money Disney has made, so they don't feel bad about sharing the box office revenue. The main creators accounted for more than 50% of the North American box office revenue. In addition, in terms of toy licensing, Disney's financial report that year pointed out that the local revenue of Star Wars series of peripheral toys was as high as $700 million. With these data, you can understand why Hollywood manufacturers like to make big movies so much and are indifferent to low-cost movies. They even lose money to develop blockbusters. Unfortunately, because Paramount participated in the investment and was the distributor, most of the profits from peripheral development were taken away by them. In the afternoon, Lyman was handling business at the company when Shirley Lansing called to inform him about holding a celebration party. To be honest, I kind of want to complain about this name. Does it mean you want to drive a car? Chapter 246. Disgusting. Additional chapter for the helmsman who doesn't understand during the day. Bang. A crisp sound. In the office of Harvey Weinstein at Miramax, a decorative porcelain suddenly fell to the ground, and the broken pieces were still spinning on the ground. Alas. Bob Weinstein sighed, kicked the broken porcelain aside with his foot, and advised, "What's there to be angry about? It's just that the box office of a movie has not been competed. Besides, we have made money. There is a long way to go. Isn't there a chance to win?" Harvey Weinstein was not like that. His fat big hand slapped an invitation letter on the table and said angrily, "The little villains thing, the celebration party of Saw, was sent to me. He is deliberately irritating me and disgusting me." Is the reason why Harvey is so angry because of the invitation letter? Of course not. That's because in his heart, he still thought it was Lemon's idea to let Paramount send him the invitation. In the past 2 years, what he regretted most was missing Lemon, and it made the relationship between the two people always bad. This has become a kind of grudge in his heart. As a result, he became more and more upset when he saw Lemon's career flourishing. Not to mention that he was defeated in the first confrontation between the two parties. Now, what's more, he even sent an invitation to the celebration party to his company. What is this? Is it a show of strength? Bob, who was standing by, was also unhappy after hearing this. Of course, he also knew about the grudge between Miramax and Lemon, but in his opinion, it was okay to offend him and fail to cooperate. Their company was still doing well in the industry, but they couldn't let others take advantage of them. But Bob Weinstein is a very rational person. Although he was annoyed by this provocative behavior, he still said, "You know he did it on purpose to piss you off. Why are you still angry?" Harvey Weinstein sat back in his office chair and smashed a piece of porcelain. He calmed down a little. "The project Kill Bill is really not very good. Quentin lost to a newcomer. Do you know what the newspapers say now? They say that the director trained by Miramax can't even beat the second in command of Firefly. Isn't this frustrating? In addition, let's not talk about the box office results. The key is that the cost of making the two movies can't be compared. How can I not be angry? To be honest, it is really frustrating. Such facts are there, and Bob Weinstein doesn't know how to persuade him. The North American box office gap between the two is not too big. The score of Saw is more than $160 million, which is only more than $20 million higher than Kill Bill, but the cost of making the two movies is too different. The salary of several actors in Kill Bill plus the director Quentin's worth and the conditions for directing is more than $15 million in expenses and minus 12% of the North American box office dividends. They have not even made back their investment just by relying on North American performance. The shooting cost of Kill Bill is $55 million. Generally speaking, if Hollywood movies want to make a profit by relying on the box office market, the performance must be at least 3 times higher than the shooting cost. And it is indeed a bit embarrassing that the shooting cost is 5 times that of Saw, but it didn't win. Harvey Weinstein sighed and said, "These are nothing. I just called the film distributor in Europe, and the European market over there is also a better screening situation for Saw." What? Bob Weinstein was a little bit unbelievable. This news was even more unacceptable to him than the fact that it didn't win the domestic market. You know, the strength of the two overseas channels agents is similar. It's just that Europa Films is stronger in France, and their agents are stronger in Germany and the UK. What's more important is that overseas audiences don't have so many information channels to learn about a movie, and they will generally pay more attention to familiar faces when choosing a movie. For example, if they know which star or director is directing a movie, they will buy a ticket to watch it. After all, they have movies to watch in their own country, and the selection is very wide. In the Japanese market, there is always a phenomenon that animated movies beat live-action movies, and in countries with high cultural and national consciousness, such as China and South Korea, they also give priority to supporting relatively excellent local movies, not to mention that there are policy suppressions. I won't talk about this, those who know will understand, so as not to be criticized. Therefore, the European market, which is also in the English cultural circle, has always been the largest overseas ticket warehouse for Hollywood, and Quentin's reputation in Europe has always been strong, but he didn't expect that he couldn't beat it in China, and he still couldn't beat it abroad. This phenomenon is not good for Miramax. Although they can guarantee profits, how big is the profit margin? Overseas markets are still very important. Now it's difficult to make a mistake. Harvey Weinstein opened the invitation and handed it to Bob. Take a look for yourself. Paramount specifically pointed out the overseas achievements in it. So far, it has accumulated $150 million, and the global total box office has officially exceeded $300 million. No wonder Harvey Weinstein was so angry. This was already a naked slap in the face. And he was told with accurate data, you can't do it. Of course, all this was just the brothers' imagination. Lyman didn't know who Paramount sent the invitation to. This celebration party was not prepared by him, so he didn't care much. Besides, he never cooperated with Miramax. He basically treated the other party as a passerby and ignored them. These two people even added drama to themselves. It's disgusting. Bob Weinstein took the invitation and said, I'll go in your place. They have sent it. If you don't go, it will be a loss of face. We at Miramax are very face conscious. Harvey Weinstein waved his hand helplessly, which meant he agreed. In fact, judging from all the movies released by the two companies in October, their two movies are already the best in the world, and they are the only ones in the same league. The rest of the competitors don't even have a chance to compete with each other. No matter how you look at it, Kill Bill is not the loser. But people always focus on the brightest side. Who cares how good the second one is? The popularity of Saw and the frequent media reports have completely overshadowed Kill Bill. It is more like a background board to highlight how awesome Saw is. Harvey Weinstein originally thought that relying on Quentin's accumulated overseas fanbase, maybe it would be a different situation in the overseas market. After all, people have consumption inertia, just like they prefer to choose familiar stores when buying things. Audiences also have viewing inertia when watching movies. It is better to watch a familiar director than to choose an unfamiliar movie. Similarly, why series movies have become the first choice for producers is also supported by this inertial concept. After watching the first part, watching the second, third, fourth, etc., there will be a subconscious impulse to consume. This is why series movies always sell well. Unless the quality is really bad, as long as it is above the passing line, the audience will not only be more tolerant and maintain good reputation, but also be willing to promote it spontaneously and buy tickets to support it. In addition to the listing, the most is released today. Chapter 247 Dress Up. Subscription recommendation. November 13th. The air was slightly chilly. Eva Green just left the airport and saw the familiar figure at the exit. Of course, from Lemon's perspective, it should be like this. In the crowd, a beautiful woman wearing a white shirt, straight leg 9-point jeans, and chestnut hair tied behind her head, was walking towards him. Her ankles were just right, and she was wearing high heels. Her two straight long legs were also very eye-catching. Lemon, she shouted in surprise, put down her suitcase, and took the initiative to throw herself into the arms of the man in front of her. Oh my god. In the slightly envious eyes of others, she gave a sweet kiss. Well, maybe the resentment value of male compatriots was too full. Lemon, who was locked in by several gazers, did not dare to cross the line. Thank you for picking me up. Have you been waiting for a long time? Eva hadn't seen Lemon for a while, and she was in a very good mood when she saw him again. No, but you, wearing so little, aren't you cold? Isn't it cold on the plane? So I took off a coat. Then let's go. Johnson is still waiting for us outside. Lemon took the suitcase, took Eva's arm, and walked towards the airport parking lot. If he didn't leave, the eyes of the singles would really kill him. Terrible. Kissing in public. Do you really think that my big FFF group has no branches in the United States? After getting in the car, Lemon said to Johnson, let's go to Dyer's flagship store. Johnson started the car neatly. Tonight is the celebration party of SOAR, and while it's on the way, let's choose Eva's dress first. Will you accompany me to choose? Eva said happily. Of course. Lemon stretched out his hand and put his arm around her waist, saying very seriously, Point, how about this dress? This color is also good. Let me try it first. Maybe women are born shopaholics. 2 hours later, they were still in Dyer's store. Johnson sat beside him in silence, watching Eva still discussing outfits with the store supervisor. He asked, have you confirmed your relationship? Yes. Didn't you know about it a long time ago? Lemon asked in confusion. No, I'm talking about the superficial relationship. Are you ready to let the media or everyone know? Lemon looked up at Johnson, but said nothing. I've seen too many couples break up after their private lives were overly watched. You are a director, and you may not be as worthy of constant attention as a star, but don't underestimate the paparazzi. If you continue to hide it, it won't affect your relationship. I mean, there's no need to be open and above board. She is not the main creator of SOAR, and we don't have any good reason to explain her entry. Johnson, do you understand women? Not really. She needs to be recognized and needs a sense of security. It's appropriate to keep it mysterious all the time, but have you ever thought about what Eva thinks? The day before yesterday, she called me and said that her mother wanted to take her to a blind date. At her age, she also needs to consider the future. Do you understand? Lemon looked at Johnson seriously. Okay, I understand. I will be in charge of her personal business in the future. I will say hello to Kevin Haldane. Eva's economic contract is also signed with CAA, but it is a more ordinary one. Johnson is already a senior agent. If he is in charge, it will undoubtedly be of great help to Eva. Thank you. There is no need to talk about this between us. Johnson looked at Eva, who was choosing a dress, and there was still some worry between his eyebrows. As he said, it is common for couples in the circle to break up and get back together. He has also seen examples of couples who were hit hard by the woman after breaking up and could not recover. Lemon is very talented and has a terrifying market sensitivity for filming. His films have never worried about the results, but even so, Johnson, as his agent, is particularly afraid that Eva will affect him, his future, their career. Lemon's future is closely tied to his future, and Johnson does not want to see some unfavorable factors appear. But first of all, he respects Lemon's choice. I hope they can go a long way. Lyman, what do you think of this dress? Let me see. The celebration party for SOAR was luxurious, and a private club in Beverly Hills was booked as the venue. As for the participants, in addition to the film's creators and some senior executives of Paramount, there were also a bunch of stars from CAA and even major brokerage companies. Shirley Lansing is one of the most powerful leaders in the circle, so naturally there will be many people willing to come and make connections. And Lemon, on behalf of Firefly Pictures, cooperated with Paramount to develop the sequel to SOAR. In order to support Lemon, it can be said that CAA has made a lot of efforts. Most of its clients have had friendships with Lemon, so naturally they will not be stingy with personnel to show their support. As an aside, the sequel to SOAR has been determined to be a packaged service project within CAA. They will provide people to form a filming team, and for this, they can get an additional 10% of the film share of revenue. How can you get people to contribute without giving some benefits? Moreover, CAA's willingness to support so strongly is also the reason why Lemon is willing to share some of the benefits. In this circle, as long as you don't eat alone, everyone is a friend. Lemon is also very clear that his foundation is not deep, so in addition to getting CAA on board, He will not offend Paramount. If there is no irreconcilable conflict, basically the distribution rights will be given to them in the future. The same is true for Europa Films. In the evening, Lemon rushed to the venue with Johnson and Eva, and happened to see James Wan and Ray Nava inside. He looked at the venue, and saw that it was still being set up. The time had not yet arrived, but some crew members were already there. He looked around and asked curiously, "Where is Jason Statham? Why didn't he come with you?" James Wan explained, "He went to France to shoot a movie. It seems to be called Transporter. The filming company is Europa Films. Don't you know?" Well, Lemon was too busy. Luck Besson even told him about this. Ryan even invested $4.8 million on behalf of their company. This is also a series of movies. The first one was shot by Jason Statham and Shuki in 2002. It was produced by the Hong Kong filming team and Europa Films. After the decline of Hong Kong movies, many talents came to Hollywood to develop. For example, Wu Beige also came during that period. It can be said that the smoothness and gorgeousness of Hollywood action movies are inseparable from these experienced film talents. Chapter 248 Cocktail Party Subscription Recommendation. Congratulations, Director Lemon. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the club began to get lively. In front of the door, everyone was politely greeting each other. Lemon was dealing with it, and not far away, Shirley Lansing came to greet him personally with her assistant. She greeted with a smile, "Lyman, congratulations on the box office success. I hope we can continue this kind of cooperation in the future. No, it should be us who rely on Paramount. This time, Paramount's operation and publicity are also very powerful." Lemon smiled. Shirley Lansing shook hands with James Wan again and said, "Director James Wan, you are also young and promising. Keep up the good work. The world will be yours in the future." James Wan shook his hand gently, then let go and said politely, "It's the result of everyone's joint efforts." After shaking hands with Eva Green, Hugo Weaving and others, Shirley Lansing took Lemon and others to the table. Today's celebration banquet can be said to be full of big names. For example, Leo came with a female companion and is now chatting happily with Kate Winslet. Speaking of the two of them, because of the popularity of Titanic, many audiences regard them as the best couple on the screen, but privately, they don't have any good feelings for each other in that regard, and they get along more like friends. Just like now, Kate Winslet is not jealous of Leonardo DiCaprio bringing a female companion, but because they don't meet often, they are chatting happily. It seems that they do have a good personal relationship. Lemon glanced again and found that in a corner of the banquet hall, Thomas Tull, the president of Legendary Pictures, who he met that day, was sitting, and he seemed to be chatting with someone. Lemon pulled Johnson over with some surprise and asked, "Who is that person chatting with?" Johnson looked in the direction of Lemon's eyes and smiled. "It's Robert Borman, the head of the distribution department of Universal Pictures." Lemon suddenly became curious. He clearly remembered that Legendary Pictures would slowly grow with the support of Warner in the next 2 years. Why does it seem that Legendary Pictures has a tendency to invest in Universal? However, this was not something he should worry about. After paying attention to it for a while, he gave up. When the guests were almost all present, Shirley Lansing raised her glass and said, "Saw has been a big hit in the market, and the box office has officially exceeded 300 million. Director James Wan's directing ability has contributed greatly to this. Here, I want to toast you first, and at the same time, I also wish that the sequel of the movie will continue to be excellent." For a moment, all the guests stood up and raised their glasses to celebrate. Then, as the protagonist of this banquet, James Wan was often approached to clink glasses with him. He had to give face and could only drink one glass after another. Lemon accompanied him. Not long after, another figure that he didn't want to see appeared. The person was Bob Weinstein, who attended the cocktail party on behalf of Miramax Films. He was accompanied by Quentin Tarantino. You know, Quentin's Kill Bill was just overshadowed by Saw. The two are direct competitors. Why is he here? Lemon was a little confused, but he still had a polite smile on his face. Congratulations, Director James Wan. Congratulations to Mr. Lemon's Firefly Pictures for becoming more and more prosperous. Bob Weinstein took the champagne and said with a smile, "Thank you." James Wan was almost drunk. No matter who came, he would say thank you. Congratulations to Miramax Pictures for its bright future. Lemon clinked glasses. Seeing that Lemon had no emotions, Bob Weinstein took the initiative to finish the wine. He did not want to lose face. After drinking it, he smiled and said, "I hope we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future." After saying hello, the man took the initiative to leave again. Quentin Tarantino couldn't help asking, "Is it over?" Bob Weinstein shook his head. "What else can we do? Are you going to blame me? This is Paramount's home court. Miramax can't afford to offend." Quentin didn't say anything more after hearing this. He actually didn't have much thought about or surpassing his movie. It's nothing more than that his skills are inferior to others, and the subject matter is not popular enough with the audience. But Harvey's words made him feel that the invitation letter was also a slap in his face. That's why he showed up here. You know, since losing to Saw, in order to avoid the media's limelight, Quentin has rarely appeared in such occasions. The two were about to leave against the crowd, but unexpectedly, they met Barry Meir at the door again. Bob was a little curious about why the executive of Warner came here. "Hello, please come in." As the host, Shirley Lansing had a sincere smile on her face while speaking. If you didn't know, you would really think she was welcoming guests warmly. In recent years, Paramount has been beaten by Warner in the market. Congratulations, congratulations. Barry Meir also smiled and shook hands with Shirley Lansing, and then turned to James Wan and said, "The first movie can break 100 million, young and promising." James Wan smiled happily and responded politely. After saying hello, Barry Meir walked straight to Lemon. He came here today mainly for project cooperation. Afterwards, the two of them communicated enthusiastically. Shirley Lansing on the side was a little surprised, but didn't say anything. Several bigwigs present had their eyes lit up, called their assistants, and secretly gave a few instructions. Such a scene, in the eyes of others, including Bob Weinstein, thought that the relationship between the two was different. So, a play of Lemon leaving Paramount and joining Warner slowly took shape in their minds. Eva Green was also a little confused. She was very smart, and she also knew that the reason why Lemon took her to this cocktail party was somewhat exposed. In addition to being happy, she also made up her mind to lock Lemon tightly. Although she already knew that her man was awesome, she didn't expect that Warner's executives also had some friendship with him. Thinking of this, she glanced at Lemon, who was still chatting with Barry Meir, and then looked at the people around with eager eyes. Many big and small actors in the circle are keen to participate in activities or to expand their own network. As for her, because she was with Lemon, most people were kind to her. Moreover, Johnson was now her agent and was actively helping her contact opportunities. Although it was just a few simple exchanges, there might be opportunities for cooperation in the future. About 5 minutes later, Lemon greeted Eva again, and then walked towards the columns next to the banquet hall with Barry Meir. This behavior almost meant that they needed a private space to communicate, so no stupid people would come to continue chatting and disturbing them. Chapter 249 Preparation is imminent. Subscription recommendation required. Under the banquet hallway. Want a cigarette? Barry Meir took out a pack of cigarettes from the inner pocket of his clothes, took out 2 cigarettes, and handed one to Lemon. "Some time ago, you said you were shooting a new movie. How is it? How is this movie now?" "It's finished, and it's in post-production." Lemon took the cigarette, then the lighter, slowly lit it, took a puff, and exhaled lightly, saying, "Once the soundtrack is finished, it will be almost ready for release." Barry Meir smiled and nodded, curiously. "When are you going to release it?" "The earliest will be next year. It's almost the end of the year, and the remaining market share has almost been divided up. Besides, the subject matter of my movie is not suitable for colliding with the remaining blockbusters." Lemon said slowly. "That's right." Barry Meir showed a smile of appreciation at the corner of his mouth. New Line Cinema's Lord of the Rings trilogy. The last one is strongly scheduled for December, and there are also movies like Elf that are themed around the festive atmosphere. It is indeed not suitable to compete with it. Of course, this guy didn't say something else. For example, the final chapter of the Matrix series released by Warner Bros. Has been released for 2 days and is still making a lot of money in the market. Another example is Tom Cruise, who is starring in the film. Warner Bros. Has been flirting with some Japanese companies to expand the Japanese market. The Last Samurai, which is scheduled to be released at the end of November, is expected to continue to squeeze the audience's wallets with the after effects of the Matrix revolutions. The Christmas season has always been a gathering of strong players, but this time, Lyman does not intend to use macro love to wade into this muddy water. He is very self-aware and does not think that there will be any good results if he rushes into it head-on. It is better to take the initiative to avoid it. When are you going to shoot the new film? Lyman said, in the next 2 months. Berry just asked casually, but he did not expect Lyman to really have plans in this regard, so he quickly asked, do you have a plan? Of course. At this point, Berry secretly observed Lyman's expression and kept thinking about some decisions he wanted to verify before. It is indeed important whether a director has directing talent, but this is not something that an investor cares about very much, or it is not something that Warner particularly cares about. There are so many talented directors, and the most important thing is whether the director's work can bring rich profits to the investors. Unlike Miramax and Lionsgate, which have little background and rely on low-cost production to maintain operations, Warner now cares most about the value of project development. It is completely out of consideration for interests, and directors like Lyman who can save money, say how much the investment budget is, that's how much, don't spend money indiscriminately, in contrast to Cameron, who never has a precise number for the shooting budget, which can make people angry to death, and high returns. Every project is profitable, and the return ratio is very high, are exactly the kind of directors that investors appreciate the most. James Wan, who was fully trained in the future, is almost the same template, so Universal and Warner also like to work with him very much. Moreover, continuous success, even film projects with an investment of over 100 million yuan, can still have a relatively good market dominance, which makes Berry willing to trust him. Why? He has experience and a mature filming style. However, if they want to further maintain this cooperative relationship, a simple test is definitely not enough. Since ancient times, there have been countless examples of people joining together for the sake of interests and breaking up for the sake of interests. However, that is all for the future. The most important thing at the moment is to complete the first cooperative project first. So, the two of them smoked cigarettes with their own thoughts and continued to talk in a tangled way. Warner is a good move. Berry left, and he just came to see him. The company is busy with affairs, and being able to take out such a little time to meet and build relationships is already the ultimate. After chatting for more than 20 minutes, Lyman returned to the banquet hall. You are really popular. Eva smiled. I can bring benefits, and they want to share. Eva, you will have such a day. Me. How is it possible? The market appeal of an actor is also a good resource. When you reach the status of Cage and Tom Cruise, you will know that opportunities will always come to you on their own initiative. Maybe. Eva smiled, but said nothing. Rather than becoming famous, she wanted to get along with Lyman. The socializing continued. Lyman looked around, but didn't see James Wan. He probably went to the bathroom to vomit. After all, he was forced to drink by so many people, and he was a straightforward person. If he didn't want to embarrass others, wouldn't he suffer? Walking to the seat in the lounge area, Lyman just sat down to rest for a while, and Johnson came over. In a few days, go to Warner to confirm the directing contract. The terms are almost set, so there's no need to fight for it. Lyman took a sip of water to moisten her mouth, and then gave the order. Is the new project a collaboration with Warner? Yes. Okay, I got it. Oh, and please get me a contact from Warner. Who's the author of the novel adapted into a movie. I want to discuss something with him. Johnson silently wrote it down, hesitated for a moment, and then said, what do you think about this collaboration? I mean Paramount, should we pay attention to it? No, Shirley Lansing is not a fool, and neither is Berry. Do you know why he came to me at the Saw cocktail party? Wouldn't it be better to invite him to discuss it privately? It's for Paramount to see. Johnson thought about it and understood. After all, Paramount has been responsible for the distribution of Lemon's directorial works in the past 2 years. How can a cash cow director like Lemon not make some gestures when his position has changed all of a sudden? Of course, Lemon himself has his own plans. Firefly Pictures has just been established, so maybe they don't need to think so much, but if the project conflicts with their company's distribution plan after it develops, what will happen? Although Paramount's production level has not been strong in the past 2 years, if it controls DreamWorks, his film company will find it difficult to compete with it. Why? Can Paramount really judge which is more important, a biological son or a godson? This is also the reason why Lemon insisted on getting involved with Warner, so that when the release schedules of the two conflict, Paramount will arrange for the release of the film in a rubbish schedule. The same is true for Warner. If they take care of their own films, he will turn around and invest in another one. Anyway, everyone is considering everything for their own interests, and there is no right or wrong. Chapter 250, Chat, Subscription Recommendation. The next day's newspapers really broke the news that Lemon Loss was interested in cooperating with Warner. The content was true and false, and some unnecessary details were added. For example, the two sides were because of the unfair profit sharing of Saw and Paramount's bullying of customers, so director Lemon turned to Warner. Although this report did not attract much attention from readers, in the eyes of those who are interested, they don't know who this good show is for. Today's newspapers are all about Warner's great news. The Matrix Revolutions premiered at the box office of $48.47 million US, and after landing overseas, it has successively triggered a wave of movie watching in various places, with a total of nearly 100 million on the first day worldwide. This is the overseas distribution ability that Warner Pictures relies on. There are really few film companies that can achieve simultaneous global distribution. It is not difficult for international distributors like Europa Films to achieve simultaneous release in France and the United States, but it is very difficult to contact so many countries and regions, discuss theaters and determine the release date. It has to be said that Warner is Warner. As a film company that can compete with the peak Disney in the future, its production ability and strong publicity and promotion ability are really not comparable to ordinary film companies. Even the 6 major Hollywood companies are divided into high and low, and there is no doubt that Warner is the top one at this time. The day after the banquet, Lemon was taking care of affairs in the company. After the internal personnel situation of the company was finally cleared, the second thing to do was to recruit people. The recruitment advertisement had been posted long ago, and Lemon also asked CAA to help and spread the news in the circle. However, most of the applicants were not very reliable. When asked about qualifications, they all had just entered the circle not long ago. When asked about work experience, most of them had no experience. When asked about ideal positions, they all wanted to be executives. Who can agree to this? To cultivate talents, you have to start from the bottom to know whether they are real materials. If you want to be a manager right away, and you don't have any work qualifications, Lemon will just fool around with a few words and send them away. There was no progress for the whole morning. In the afternoon, Johnson called and said that he had found the author of the novel and had agreed on a meeting place. $1 Million Baby is actually one of the stories in a collection of novels. It has been artistically processed to make it more dramatic. After all, movies are not real. If there is no story, it will be too bland and the audience will not buy it. As for inviting the author, it was because Lemon wanted him to help polish the script, or the script adapted by Warner was not very satisfactory to Lemon. Both the dialogue and the character background were not very good. In addition, Lemon also wanted to ask about the boxing rules. Johnson was very sensible and arranged the time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Lemon drove to a bar called Josh's Cabin and looked at the chic and unrestrained decoration style in front of him. There was not much that could be seen as a bar. He smiled and shook his head. As the name suggests, this may be a place for neighbors to drink and relax, only for familiar customers. Of course, the meeting place was set by others. If it were Johnson's style, he would definitely choose a cafe. Pushing open the door of the bar, the space inside is not big, and the seats are close to the bar counter. It was the working time at this time. There was only a bartender who was wiping the wine glasses in the bar, and a customer sitting at the bar, drinking and chatting with the bartender. He was wearing a white and blue plaid long shirt, simple loose pants, thick boots, and almost half a hair on his head. Hearing the voice, he turned around and saw Lemon wearing a black suit and came to meet him. He couldn't help but smile and greeted politely, "Mr. Lemon, please come and sit." Although his outfit was out of tune with the surrounding environment, who knew that it would be like this after coming? It was the first time he met, and the meeting place was arranged at the bar, which was really interesting. Hearing the greeting, Lemon didn't hesitate, adjusted his pace, and walked straight towards the bar. The bartender was also laughing heartily, wiping the glass without any pause, and said quite comfortably, "Hey, man, this is not a place for serious talks. What's the matter, Josh? I just think your place is very nice, very suitable for chatting." The bartender in front of him, Josh, was obviously the owner of this bar, and the two knew each other very well. Lemon sat down. Josh put down the glass in his hand, raised his chin to Lemon, and greeted, "Sir, what do you need?" "A glass of draft beer." Then, he turned his head and looked at the person next to him. "Actually, I was quite surprised that the meeting place would be a bar, but in fact, the atmosphere is really good. Of course, if it's at night, it will be more lively. Everyone is familiar with each other, and there is no need to be so restrained." Lemon looked at his face and smiled. Yes, this is an old man with a rough atmosphere. Although it sounds a bit contradictory, it is exactly the case. Judging from his age, his wrinkled face, and mostly grey hair must be very old. However, he was very energetic. His slightly messy silver white beard looked untidied, as if he had just let it grow wildly. His cheeks were slightly red because of the alcohol, and the age spots under his forehead looked different in color. His pupils were not dull, but rather robust. At this moment, he had a smile on his lips, which made people subconsciously ignore his age. The draft beer was here. Lemon raised his glass, raised his eyebrows, and clinked it with him. "Meeting is fate. Cheers. You are an interesting person," the man said, and also raised his glass, took a big sip, and then showed a satisfied expression. "Jerry, can you never live without alcohol in your life?" Josh said helplessly. "Why should I leave alcohol? This is God's gift to the world, and I can't let God down." As he said that, he took another big sip. Lemon was listening nearby, and also knew the man's name, Jerry. The novel collection he published was written under the pseudonym FX Ter. Johnson had to ask around for a long time before he got the contact information from the publishing company. Since the adaptation rights of the script were completed by Paul Haggis, strictly speaking, he no longer had any rights to the film. Of course, it seems that he doesn't care, otherwise he wouldn't have taken the initiative to sell the rights to the film adaptation of his own work. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.